5, 4, 3. Hi, everybody. Dugroz here with Dugroz Reports. Welcome to my Saturday morning live stream. Today is Saturday, October the 25th, 2025, and I'm reporting live from my house. Good to see each and every one of you on board this morning. If I could get a quick sound check, let me know if I sound okay. That would be appreciated. I just changed out some of my equipment. Didn't change it out, but I was in a hotel last week and I hadn't recorded anything. So just want to make sure I hooked it all up correctly here. Let's see who's on board. We have Dimitri Quadruple One and AZ Fox, also known as Mojo. Tom Graber stops by, and not only does he stop by, he gifts one Dugroz Reports membership. Celebrate. Thank you, Tom. I really appreciate that. Too Easy, Vincent Pascal, Matt Clausen, Dimitri Quadruple One again, Juan Garcia. Good morning, Doug and everyone. John from John's Credit and Travel also stops by and gifts one Dugroz Reports membership. Celebrate. Thank you so much, John. I appreciate it. Chad Pennycuff, DEM, Nuracan. Chad says it sounds good. John says it sounds good. The Eternal Vortex stops by and drops a $1.99 super chat, maybe a super sticker. Celebrate. Thank you. On my way to the airport. Good morning. Glad to hear it. The audio is spectacular, according to MR. And it's doing that thing again where instead of giving your short YouTube name, it's giving your full YouTube name. Don't know why. Maybe it'll just snap back into reality in the near future. But Dad on a Mission is here. Allie is here. And John says, you're welcome. Yes, thank you. Ron Byrne has arrived and points out haircut looking fresh. Well, you're right, Ron. Very perceptive. I did get a haircut on Wednesday of this week, and New Again has arrived. Good to see all of you. 33 people on board. If not, you've done so. If you have not done so, please click the thumbs up button. That'll drive more people in here to watch. But got to reward the early birds. And what's the best way to reward them? Well, it's probably by diving right on into the Dugroz data points. This is anything around the world of points, miles, cashback, etc. that I find to be interesting or noteworthy. So last week I was out on a top secret Wyndham experimentation mission to find out if I could take advantage of a specific Wyndham promo, and I don't have all of the data to share on that, but I will share what I have figured out thus far. So let's go ahead and do a quick recap on that. So there was and still is a 2-night promo with Wyndham. Stay any 2 nights, get a free night. And they define free night as 7,500 points because that's the low end of their point scale. They still have a fixed award chart. Now, 7,500 Wyndham points usually won't get you anything spectacular. Maybe a Super 8 in a bad part of town or something like that. So the first 2 nights, you would get 7,500 Wyndham points. You can earn a little more than that by continuing onwards. And then to be a little more specific, here's all the terms and conditions. And if you use your Wyndham card to pay for it, you get an additional 7,500 points. I didn't zoom in very well. An additional 7,500 Wyndham points by using your Wyndham Rewards Visa card. You only get one of those bonuses from the card. So it seemed to me like the sweet spot was a single stay of 2 nights, get 7,500 points from the stay, bonus points, plus 7,500 points just by using the card. I took a trip to northern Iowa and southern Minnesota last weekend to look at some foliage. The foliage, which I'm a sucker for, and stayed at the American by Wyndham in Clear Lake, Iowa, far northern portion of Iowa, for 2 nights. Not a particularly exciting hotel, but it was perfectly cromulent. And before the booking was completed, I screenshotted what I would earn on the stay itself, just in terms of normal Wyndham bookings, and it said I'll earn 1,983 Wyndham reward points when I booked this qualified rate. And it took me a few seconds to figure out how they did that, because you get 10 points per dollar as sort of your base earnings with Wyndham. And it was $222. So I thought I should probably get 2,222 points, shouldn't I? And that's when I remembered Wyndham's kind of weird. They give you no points on taxes. I added this in. So before tax, it was $198. So I earned a bit over 1,980 Wyndham points on the stay itself. And then sure enough, when I checked my Wyndham dashboard earlier this week, about 3 or 4 days after my stay and everything was closed and posted, it says right here, I don't know what AA stands for, American something, Clear Lake, Iowa, 9,880 points. Well, that's more than the 7,500 bonus points. So let's break that down. I had to do a little bit of math to figure it out, but it wasn't too difficult to figure out. 7,500 points on the 2-night promo offer. I earned 1,983 points from the stay itself, just normal earnings. And then I'm a diamond member. That's the membership you get with the Wyndham Earner business card automatically, which is the card I have and use. So that's 20% of these earnings, not 24% of the bonus. Add it all together, 9,880 points. Hey, that's the exact number it showed on the previous screen, 9,880. So they did actually add it up correctly. No weird Wyndham math. And then again, just to review, the actual cost of the hotel was $198 before tax, $222 after tax. Now, even though you only earn points on the before tax part from Wyndham, the credit card isn't smart enough to know what's tax and what's not. So you earn your 8 points per dollar on the full amount, including tax, $222. So if we do the math on everything, including credit card earnings, it breaks down as follows. We have the above that we already saw. And then points from the card would be the $222 times 8. That's 1,777. That's because the Wyndham Earner business card gets 8 points per dollar on gas or hotels, Wyndham hotels. And then if it comes through, the points that I will eventually get from the card, but have not yet, because I use the Wyndham card, will be another 7,500 points. And that comes to a grand total of 19,157 Wyndham points. Now, most people value Wyndham points around 0.7, 0.8. That's more your reasonable redemption or your average point, according to Points Guy, that kind of stuff. I personally value them at 1.25 cents per point, somewhat conservatively, because I almost exclusively use them for VacasaandCottages.com. And the 4 times I've done that, I've always got at least 1.25. So if I use that amount, what that means is $239 in total value. Now, you may remember I spent $222 on this stay. I'm getting $239 in value. So that's kind of like Wyndham is giving me $17 to take this trip. Obviously, depends on how you think about it, because I do have to have actual money out of pocket, and you can't necessarily equate the value of Wyndham points to cash, but at least it's helpful in my mind to kind of think it through and think, yeah, I had a net positive stay. So this is kind of like a mattress run, a really lame mattress run, only making $12. I wouldn't do it for that amount. Excuse me, $17. I wouldn't do it for that amount. But if you want to take the trip anyway, which I did, coming out on the plus side, $17 in overall value is pretty appealing. All right, that's all I had on that. So I'll go ahead and catch up on comments here. Ding, ding, ding. Zach Kinsey Music stops by and gifts 1 Dugroz Reports membership. Celebrate. Thank you so much, Zach. I really appreciate that. I'm going to lower my camera here because I'm slouching a little. My mom would probably be like, stop slouching. Rupert Pond says, good morning. Good morning, Rupert. And Matt Clausen says, my only data point, Rove is awesome. More to come. Awesome. I do have a brief mention of Rove a little later in the program, and I did see your members only video with additional Rove experimentation, Matt. JazzFan27 has arrived. Yuri G has arrived. Hi, guys. Now, not from abroad. JazzFan says, good morning. Dad on a mission is in Prescott, Arizona to see some fall foliage. Not much to see, but way more than I can see in the Phoenix area. Great. I'll share some pictures later in the live stream. That's not the theme of the day, but it is something I'll mention. If you're wondering what the theme of the day today is, time to give my little preview. Today's theme of the day is the points and miles videos that I never made. I'm going to do not a clip show, but basically go through a list that I've kept in the past of videos for ideas for videos that I've never actually made. And you can just give me opinions if you want me to make these, or if you think it's a terrible idea, or just sit back, eat some popcorn, and see if it's enjoyable to hear what I would have talked about and might still in the future. Gentleman Explorer has arrived and says, good day, sir. Too Easy says, I love the math. I used points on a Vacasa stay, and it was definitely worth it. Good. Where'd you stay, Too Easy? I'd be curious to know where your Vacasa was located. You don't have to tell me the exact location, but like sort of the general area would be very cool. All right, moving on to some more generalized data points, not so much specific to Dugroz. Hat tip to Frequent Miler and I guess Matt Clausen in a roundabout sense, who mentioned Rove. Frequent Miler is just reminding us that right now, Rove Miles is offering loyalty eligible booking. So this would be like if you book Hyatt or Hilton or IHG and it flows through and shows up as a stay on their end. Those types of booking are called loyalty eligible bookings. You don't get as many Rove miles as you would if you did a non-loyalty eligible booking. But maybe if you're going for status, you want a certain number of nights, or if you just want to have your status recognized with the hotel, you can give up some Rove miles and instead do a loyalty eligible booking where it's recognized by the chain. Through October 31st, you'll earn double the number of Rove miles for these loyalty eligible bookings, thereby increasing your Rove mile earnings from 5x to 10x. So make your booking by October 31st if you want to try one of these through Rove, and let us know how it goes. I don't really have any travel coming up where this is going to be pertinent, but if I did, I would definitely consider it. I'm actually giving strong consideration to kind of leaning into Rove. I think as a free agent, it might be the way. MR says, hotel ice machine reviews, best hotel pillows, perhaps. Now you're thinking, yeah, that's the idea. For the Vacasa Too Easy says, we stayed in a cabin in Big Bear, California. Took the moms on a nice staycation. Awesome. Probably like moms, grandmas, mother-in-laws, sister-in-laws, etc. Yuri G says, Vacasa still didn't fix the location of property I tried to rent in Palencia, Belize. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, I remember you mentioning that it showed in one location on Vacasa and it was actually like 30 miles away or something like that, which is kind of an issue. Sorry you went through that, Yuri. Moving on to the next Dugroz data point. This is a reminder again from Frequent Miler. American Express's business gold card is adding a new credit or coupon. It's a $150 Squarespace credit, and this went into effect about 2 days ago. It says that American Express added yet another credit to the American Express Business Gold Card. In addition to the monthly $20 business credits, the card now features an annual credit of up to $150 towards Squarespace, a platform for building and hosting websites. Enrollment is required. Now, if I read this correctly, you do have to enroll first, but there's no breaking it up into months or quarters. I think you could, in theory, pay all at once. In the comment section, somebody said the cheapest plan is like $200 annually, so it would still cost around $50 on the net. I've actually thought about adding a website for when I have content that would be better suited to the written format than the spoken word. But I've never pulled the trigger. So this is something I would actually consider. Don't have a business gold right now, but thinking about adding one. I did actually get an offer for my wife to have a business gold card. I think it's $20K of spend in 3 months. So it's awfully rich. Don't think we'll be able to be pulling that one off in the near future, but maybe. And that's a card I've had in the past. I have a business green right now, so maybe I could get an upgrade offer. that could work out well. And then more on Wyndham, not more on Wyndham. Wyndham launched something called the Wyndham Rewards Insider. Is this $95 per year subscription worth it? And basically, you can buy Wyndham Gold status for $95 a year, and you get various perks, enhanced earnings, some of those things. The frequent miler folks went through it, and their opinion was, no, it's probably not worth it because the discounts they offer are only off the standard rate. You can often get like a AAA rate or some other kind of less flexible rate for less than that. They argue that the percentage of earnings bump up is only on the bonus piece, so it really only equates to an extra half a Wyndham point per dollar or something like that. Obviously, the portal piece is TBD. We don't know how that's going to work out, but it's something I want to keep an eye on because the concept of buying status is certainly intriguing. We're up to 47 people on board. Go ahead and continue clicking the thumbs up button. Next Dugroz data point here. Ally Bank is offering a $300 checking bonus with the code GET300. I always like to highlight bank account bonuses because this is one of the ways I build up my travel savings account, because my rule is travel has to pay for itself. I don't take any money out of the family budget, even for a stop at McDonald's or Hardee's or Bennigan's. I don't take out of the family budget. So it's good to do checking account bonuses to kind of build that slush fund now and then. This is a $300 bonus when you have $2,000 in direct deposits for 3 consecutive months. This one's appealing because there's no early termination fee and there's no monthly fees. So it's kind of hard to screw up. Worst case scenario, you're not out anything at least. And it's easy just to set up your actual work direct deposit for, make sure at least $2,000 per month is going in there. Mine is bi-weekly, so as long as I cleared $1,000 pay period, it would be okay. Yuri says, I got an offer for $125K for $15K spend in 3 months. Oh, that's not too bad for the American Express Business Gold. Next data point here is also from Doctor of Credit. This is a targeted chase offer. Spending offers. Get 5x on grocery, gas, and restaurants up to $1,000 of spend. This is the kind where you go to a specific website or you get an email, you type in the last 4 of your card, your zip code, and your last name, and it'll tell you whether or not you get the offer. Usually these are on co-branded cards. I did check my new Marriott card and I was not targeted. I checked my new Chase Ink Unlimited, not targeted, which is a bummer because those are the 2 cards I'm working on a sign-up bonus on right now. I also checked my Aeroplan card, wasn't targeted. Maybe you will be. I was not. So you might want to check your email, or you can just go to Doctor of Credit, find the link. It's in there, and head on out. I'll take a moment here just to talk about different ways you can support my channel. One is what some people have already done, including but not limited to Zach Kinsey. You can donate a Dugroz Reports membership. That's just as good as a $3 super chat. That helps more people start watching my channel. You can drop any amount in a super chat or super sticker. Of whatever you donate, 20% goes to support my family, and 80% is reinvested into the channel for experiments, equipment, those kinds of things, so I can keep this going. It is sort of like a business. Well, frankly, it is a business. It's a side hustle. I still work a 9-to-5 job, Monday through Friday. So I appreciate any support you give. That helps grow the channel. I think it also helps with the YouTube algorithm. So even little tiny donations are appreciated. If you'd rather give anonymously or in a way that a higher percentage is going directly to my channel, there is a tip jar link in the description box of this video that you can use to give a donation in that way as well. And I will try my best to remember to check that throughout the programming. I'm going to refresh it here to see if there's any new ones. There are not. By the way, I should mention at the very end of last week's episode, Mike Newland dropped, I think it was 10 memberships. And it was like I said, see you later, everybody, and clicked the button, and like half a second later, he did that. So here's a delayed celebration. Celebrate, celebrate. Thanks, Mike. I really appreciate it. Let's see. Yuri says, I got targeted on the United Airlines Explorer and IHG Select for this promo that's on screen right now. Awesome. Something that I have found to be kind of compelling that I didn't think would be compelling when it first came along is the DoorDash credit on my Chase Sapphire Reserve. I actually end up using that, and I have found the sweet spot to be delivery from Hy-Vee. Hy-Vee is a grocery store in the Midwest, including where I live in central Iowa. And they also have food. There's like a Hy-Vee deli, but they're also well known for their Chinese food, which they call Hai Chai. And the reason why that works out well is because DoorDash recognizes it as non-dining, even though it is dining, because it's coming from a grocery store. So you can use the $5 credit and the $10 credit at the same time. So you can get $15 off once a month and then $10 off another time on these Chinese food deliveries. So last night, one of my boys was at an away football game, like 2 hours away, and we didn't want to cook. So my wife said, hey, let's just order some Hai Chai. So we did. So I got dinner for two, sweet and sour chicken, and a one entree meal of Mongolian beef. And with tip, it came out to exactly $30, and there's a $15 discount. So this would have been $45 if we paid the full price. Now, I will admit, we know that things like DoorDash are a little overpriced. So I'm probably not saving a full, $15. But by the time you add in the tip and the overcharge, basically I got free delivery and saved $4 or $5, and I didn't have to get out of my pajamas and go to the store. So I kind of like that DoorDash benefit on the CSR. What's your favorite hacked usage of the DoorDash credit? Check Raise You says, it's been a while. What's good? And I need to figure out why my SN changed. Screen name. It's doing that to everyone this morning. I'm not sure why. I apologize. I recognize you by your avatar. You normally go by the name Flaming Red Monkey. No, that's not it. I can't remember. I'm so sorry. Gentleman Explorer says, data point on offers. Amex Gold. Amex Biz Gold offer for $200K on $15K spend. Amex Biz Platinum to $50K for $20K spend. Hey, that's not bad. Yuri says, I never used those DoorDash credits. Should I do it? Do it. I mean, don't change your spending habits. If you are not going to spend the money anyway, don't go out and spend it just to get it. But if you're like, hey, I'm willing to spend $10 tonight on something, and you can get a $25 item knocked down to $10, you don't have to get out of your chair, I'd say that's worth doing. All right, let's transition back into personal data points. So I talked about my Wyndham/fall foliage experiment, and I'll give you just a quick recap. This isn't going to be the whole thing. As I traditionally do, I will do a whole separate breakdown video on that. So on Saturday or Friday after my son's football game, not yesterday, but a week ago yesterday, I drove till like 12:30 in the morning to get to Northern Iowa. And the first stop on Saturday morning, as soon as my live stream was done and I took a 45-minute nap, was at the Rhodes Mill in the town of Fertile, Iowa. Yes, fertile, like he's a very fertile man. In fact, there's another town nearby named Manly, and there's this old joke that the newspaper had an article back in the 40s or 50s called Fertile Woman Marries Manly Man. I don't think that actually happened, but it's a fun story. They have this old mill from the 1800s and a dam, and this didn't have a whole lot of foliage in this town, a lot of leaves on the ground, some green, but it was a very peaceful, serene day, so I at least took a couple pictures. In fact, on all of the first day, Saturday, I stayed within Northern Iowa. The most beautiful foliage tree I saw was in the town of Forest City. I wasn't even looking for it. I just happened to drive by. In front of this mobile home that's been converted into a small business, there was this flaming red tree. Very beautiful, but honestly, I was a little disappointed. Saturday was kind of a bust. The foliage wasn't very good in Northern Iowa. It was still just a little too early. Plus, we'd had some flooding, then we had drought, and the trees were just confused. So there was a lot of this going on. We have a totally green tree right next to a changing tree. They couldn't get their act together and all change colors at the same time. But then on Sunday morning, much better success. I drove further north, about 2 hours into Minnesota, and went to Sakata Lake State Park. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. Yes, it is on a lake, but it was very cold right by the lake, so I was mostly in the wooded area, inland a little bit. The foliage got a lot better. First, I found this area where it was nothing but just a whole bunch of yellow, very North Woods-ish looking. It was a little chilly. I'm wearing a jacket. It was 56 degrees at 2:22 p.m. So yeah, a bit on the nippy side, but not too bad. And here's looking upwards into the canopy of trees. I thought that was a nice picture. You got some red, you got some yellow, very flaming there. And here's another picture of the same state park. Got the sun kind of peeking through. Kind of feels like, Winnie the Pooh should live here, or the Ewoks, something like that. After I left there, I drove through a small town. I think it's called Morrisville or Morristown, and just happened to be some trees out in some people's front yards that were in full fiery bloom. And then sort of my big win was I stopped. I almost skipped it. I'm glad I didn't. At a place called Murr Beach / Big Island State Park near Albert Lea. And it was right at dusk. And we had a lot of good colors there too, kind of right in the canopies. You had a lot of trees that were in the process of changing color. There's one of them, and this is just proving that Big Island is in fact an island. There's a lake. I was the only person there. So just sitting by this totally calm lake, and it's far enough off the highway. There's not really any road noise or anything, just a woodpecker nearby. It was extremely serene for about 7 minutes. Then my wife called me on my cell phone, and it was like, ring, like, almost had a little heart attack. There's another tree at the state park that was in full bloom. And only like 10 minutes later, the sun pretty much had gone down. So there's a lookout over the lake, kind of, you got loons and crickets and stuff, and just good to be out in creation. That's it. I'll catch up on some comments here. Did this. Financial Finesse says, how to finesse DoorDash credit. Do a pickup at a convenience store, gas station like 7-Eleven, Cumberland Farms, Speedway, etc. We don't have any of those around here, but I wonder if Quick Trip or Quick Star does. Possibly. I'll keep that in mind. Thank you. But sometimes you're just, in the mood for delivery. Back to a public data point here. This is Hat Tip Frequent Miler. T-Mobile ends the auto-pay discount workaround for credit cards. This has got to be disappointing for those of you who use T-Mobile. So T-Mobile gives an auto-pay discount. I think it's 5% off your bill if you set up auto-pay. And technically it says you have to do it either through a debit card or an EFT. So credit card isn't an option, but there's a workaround that people have known about for a long time, that if you set it up to draft from a debit card, but then before your draft date each month, go in and manually pay with a credit card, you still get the 5% discount. Unfortunately, apparently T-Mobile got wise, and now you'll get a pop-up window that says, just to let you know, if you use this credit card, it'll turn off your auto pay discount and you won't save your $5 or $10 or whatever next month. So kind of a bummer. You're going to have to choose between savings or points earnings. You're not going to be able to get both. Travel, Learn, Repeat says, I got the new Chase benefits on the reserve today. Can I use them already if I activate? I don't know the answer to that. My understanding was the day is this coming Monday, the 27th. If you're a grandfathered holder of the CSR, the new benefits kick in on Monday, the 27th. So I was thinking small chance my kids and I might go to an Iowa State football game, and I'll buy it through, is it StubHub? Whichever ticket service they have is one of their new benefits. I thought I would have to wait till Monday to try booking that, but let's see what happens. Some experimentation might be in order. Matt says a possible tip for DoorDash is just use the credit as a tip. That's not a bad idea. So then you can think, well, I don't want to get delivery because then I have to pay the tip. Just make the credit equal the tip. That way you don't have to feel guilty about it, and you can sit in your pajamas, or in Matt's case, your onesie. Luke says, what's up, players? Hey, Luke, how you doing? Good to see you this morning. Matt also says, if you have to minimize, yes, order about $10 stuff and set up to pick up where you can pick up. QC Man says they started the benefits early, and Matt says supposedly. I don't know anything about that. I haven't looked into it. I'll keep going here. Just a second, folks. I need to blow my nose, and I've kind of a catch in my throat. Let me address that. Don't blow my nose into the microphone. Sorry about that. Tried to discreetly drink a piece of ice, but you know how melted ice can all get stuck together? I couldn't get a single piece in my mouth, and I wanted to chomp it and swallow it because I felt like I had something kind of caught in my throat. So it worked, but it was not very suave. Next Dugroz data point on the docket here is the saga of the Dell credit. So my wife has a business platinum, and those of you who followed along know that I ordered something from Dell. It was a couple of Nintendo Switch controllers that were like $167 or something like that. About 10 days, 7 days, something like that, before I had to cancel her card. And they arrived like 2 days after I ordered them, but I never got billed. And I got emails from Dell saying, your item has been delayed. We haven't shipped it yet. And I'm like, it's here. I'm literally looking at them right now. You've shipped it. So there was some sort of issue where Dell's system thought they hadn't shipped, but they actually had shipped. And I messaged them, I was like, hey, got a couple emails asking if I could extend the deadline. Well, last week, or maybe it was a little over a week ago, I got this poorly worded email that said, greetings from Dell. This is a follow-up call. Looks like an email, not a call, but whatever. With regards to your order status request, please, my Minnesota accent kicked in. This is a follow-up call with regards to your order status. Please be informed our IT team is still working to move your order to invoice stage. I will keep you posted. Well, I'm pleased to report that earlier this week, that did actually happen. They did finally bill me on my wife's closed Amex Business Platinum card. And you can see right here, October 20th, Dell, Round Rock, Texas, $169. And the Dell credit posted on the same day. It might have actually posted a day or two later, but I didn't check it for a couple days. But regardless, all's well as ends well. So we learned a couple things. One is Dell can bill a card that has already been canceled. And two, even if the card is closed, you'll still get your Dell statement credit as long as you're enrolled and registered and all that kind of stuff. So great. Got 2 Nintendo controllers for about $19, which is good because my son bought a Switch 2 and the Pro controllers are forwards compatible with those. So that's good info. Bill Wright says the Instacart credits on the inks are nice. Matt says they are nice. And Yuri says, so you can use multiple credits from different cards in one order? I actually don't know the answer to that. My son has a chess tournament coming up this weekend. I'm going to make a very boring but very good and efficient use of Hyatt points. We'll be staying at the Hyatt Place in East Moline, Illinois. This is part of the Quad Cities right on the border between Iowa and Illinois, just on the Illinois side of the river. This is still a Category 1 hotel, which is really exciting because finding Category 1 Hyatts is becoming rarer and rare. So we got 2 nights. We're going from the night of Halloween into Sunday. It's a 2-queen room, and this is 5,000 points a night, so 10,000 total points, and it would normally cost $258. So if you're doing the math, that's really easy math, 2.58 cents per point. So we sometimes talk about playing on easy mode with Hyatt, and I thought about experimenting with a different hotel in the area, but this is the equivalent of getting the hotels for $50 a night. So it's like, you know what? Sometimes the easy answer is the right answer. Let's just use those Hilton points. I'm gonna use them. Yeah, I said Hilton. Use those Hyatt points. I've stayed at this hotel before. It's perfectly cromulent. They got a lounge on the top floor, not like a member lounge, just like a lounge and bar, small restaurant kind of thing. So, do any of you have any stories with great experiences at Category 1 Hyatts or like a low-end Hyatt that's like right place, right time, perfect points price? Let me know. QCMS says it's like the easy button from Staples. Travel Learn Repeat says, as far as T-Mobile, what will you guys go for the discount or the points? Can you make a poll? Oh, will you go for the points or the discount? Can you make a poll? Probably not. I mean, I could with a lot of work, but it's not really my wheelhouse. That's something more like a stay on the credit frog type thing. So I'll let somebody else do that. Yuri says, I got another Brand Explorer FNC from Hyatt for staying one night at a Mr. and Mrs. Smith in Medellin, one of the cheapest M&M properties at only $16.5K. Awesome. And now it's time for America's favorite game, We Don't Take Amex. So here's a picture of me at my son's junior varsity football game last week. I was running the chain gang, but that's not the purpose. The purpose is before the game, I swung by the concession stand, and what did I see? We accept the following forms of payment: cash, Apple Pay, MasterCard, Visa, Discover. What's not on this list? That's right, American Express. So if you want to go to a football game for a high school in central Iowa, there's a good chance they don't take Amex. So just tuck that away, add it to your list of places that don't take Amex. All right. We are just about ready to dive into the theme of the day here, which is all the videos I didn't make. I'll catch up on comments here, and then I actually probably need to use the bathroom before the main event today, but we do have 62 people on board. Slightly disappointing, not too bad. Keep dropping those little tiny super chats, clicking thumbs up, that'll help, and we'll see what happens. QC Man asked the question I'm wondering about: what if you used Amex with your Apple Pay? My guess is it would still work, but I can't say that for sure. In the past, Casey's gas stations would not take Amex with Apple Pay. They do now, but it didn't work in the past. Yuri G says it's not going to work, so my guess was wrong. I was only guessing. I don't know that for sure. In terms of easy win Hyatts, Yuri also points out the Wild Palms Hotel in Sunnyvale, California is a Cat 1 Hyatt JDV property starting at $3,500. That would be the off-peak days. Does JDV stand for something, or is it just JDV? That's just what it's called. The exception would be an Amex debit card, says DEM. All right. I am going to use the little boys' room. We call this our biology break. Sometimes we call it intermission. So just stay tuned. I'll be back in about 90 seconds to 2 minutes and listen to some nice lo-fi copyright-free music. I will return. I promise. Hang in there. Almost back. Quick asthma puff. Excuse me. Hey, we still have 62 people. Thank you for most of you not leaving. Only lost 3 people. Since I have regained my good posture, I shall reposition my camera. One of the things I need to use my channel funding for is to buy a new sit-stand desk. Mine is broken and one end is about 3 inches higher than the other. So I have to put this prop thing in there. If I don't, it kind of looks like that. So I take this piece of paper and kind of wedge it under one end of my camera every week to make it not crooked. And if I don't do it just right, it looks weird. So, please, sir, can I have some alms for the poor to buy a new desk? Catching up on comments here. Dem said this, and then he corrected himself with the instead of he. Platt, fat finger stay, we all have it. Do any of you know that reference from The Simpsons where the phone goes doo doo doo? The fingers used to dial this phone are too fat. To obtain a special dialing wand, mash the keypad now. Yuri says, not sure what JDV stands for, but it's another Hyatt brand. QC Man says, I've done the Apple Pay trick with an Amex before, but it doesn't work everywhere. I tried it at Costco and it didn't work, so it probably depends. I would imagine a big store like Costco is too smart for that. Yuri also says, one of my property tax counties says it doesn't accept Amex online, but it was accepted anyway. Yeah, I know at the Culver's drive-thru in the town where I live, the sign out front only has Visa and MasterCard, but they still take Amex if you hand it to them. The same thing at Dairy Queen. It doesn't say Amex, but they do actually take it. I wonder if there's a lot of places, especially smaller businesses, where you just sign up to accept credit cards through whatever local bank you have, and they contract with some big company, and it's just like, we take credit cards. And then they notice that they pay more for Amex, so they just put a sign out that says we don't take Amex, but really on the back end they do. So if you've got your 15-year-old part-time cashier, as long as it goes through and swipes, they don't know any better. Amayaya Karim says, do you recommend applying for the Chase Sapphire Reserve in December or January 2026? Chase bases their credits on a rolling 12-month period, so it honestly doesn't matter. Unlike Amex, where it's a calendar year, and you would definitely want to do it in December. Fleet Easy has arrived. Good morning. Happy to see you. Chad says Costco sells a great sit-stand desk. Oh, maybe you can send me a recommendation offline. The one I got is from a company called Autonomous, and I've had it for like 12 years, so it really served me well. I mean, I use it literally every day. It's a push button. Just push a button. Push a button. You don't have to hold the button. You don't have to do a crank. Marzan TV says, I just activated Apple TV and Music with Chase. Will I get the credit a few days early? I don't know. It says activated. Wait and see. It would be kind of a ripoff if it says activated and didn't work. The episode where Homer got fat on purpose. Yes, exactly. And he saves the power plant by falling into a tunnel that his fat butt plugs up. Fleet Easy also says, well, you'll get 3 StubHub and dining bonuses if you go December. So that route if you're thinking about downgrading after year 1. Good point. New Again says, I don't do New Year's resolutions, but I'm thinking of making one. Get 90% out of Amex and MR program, CSR, and points boost. Here I come, or get deep into City. Let us know what you decide. Also, it's easily, by the way, my dude. Fleet Easily. I see that now. Thank you very much, Fleet. I apologize for the mispronunciation. Bill Wright says, I used a Marriott Business for gas at an Illinois Casey's, no problem. Great. I'm not sure if you're saying that because like you're just pointing out that you can use a business card at a Casey's, or you just wanted to brag about going to Casey's, which would be a perfectly legitimate brag. All right, let's go ahead and transition now to our, actually, I need to check the tip jar. Oh, he did it again. Mike Newland drops a $60 tip in the tip jar. I haven't even seen you on board, Mike. Celebrate, celebrate. Why don't you pop on so I can properly thank you by at least putting your name on the screen? I really appreciate that. You truly are my benefactor. New Again says, does Dairy Queen still make steak finger strips with the fries? I have no idea. I don't know that I've had Dairy Queen fries in the last 5 years. All right, so we're going to share this tab instead. We're going to pull it up. There we go. And MR thinks clean bathrooms and delicious pizza on the go. Casey's is a gem. Usually, yes. Oh, I will say the Cenex in Morristown, Minnesota had one of the cleanest gas station bathrooms I'd ever seen. So hat tip to them. I even went on Google and gave them a Google review pointing that out. It's time for the theme of the day. Today's theme is videos I never made. So what do I mean by videos I never made? Well, it should be fairly self-explanatory. I keep a list on my iPhone, like reminders on your Apple iPhone. I call it video ideas. And every time I think, oh, that would be a good idea for a video, I just don't have time to do it right now, I put it in that list. I've said before, for every one video you actually see me make, there's at least 3 that I haven't made. Some of them are like, I wake up early in the morning and I had a dream, oh, I should make a video about this. It's something really stupid. And then I delete it later. It's like, I don't know what I was thinking. A video comparing credit cards to different reptiles. That would be amazing, says my brain at 5:30 in the morning. But then at like 7 o'clock, it's like, nope, that's just dumb. Delete. But the ones that don't get deleted and stick around for a while, I've got lots of them. And I have chosen the first 25. I left out like 1 or 2 because I want to keep them top secret or something. But for the most part, here are 25 videos that I thought about making that I never actually made. So we're about to dive in. But before we do, one more time, thumbs up, drop a super chat, super sticker. Any of those will help out. If you give exactly $1.49 as it appears on the screen, I think you have to find like the hamburger super sticker or something like that. I will give you 1,000 Dugroz points for whatever you want to use them for. They may or may not have a fixed value. Amaya Kim drops a $2 super chat. Celebrate. Ayama Ikarim. I probably mispronounced that, and I'm so sorry about that, but I do appreciate your patronage. Celebrate, and thank you. All right, so videos I never made. Let's dive in no particular order. Number 1, G.I. Joe style PSAs about points and miles. So those of you who are my age in your mid-40s undoubtedly remember the cartoon G.I. Joe from the 80s. I think it overlapped into the 90s a little. At the end of each episode, they would have like a 30-second segment where they played the kind of guitar version in the background. And usually there were some adolescent boys or teenage boys doing something they shouldn't do, like mixing chemicals in the garage or smoking or jaywalking or playing with matches or something like that. And they would be like, yeah, let's do this. And then a G.I. Joe guy would come in and said, I don't think that's such a good idea. And they would look at him. And of course, every teenager knows the names of all the G.I. Joe characters. They look and say, it's Duke, or I can't think of another G.I. Joe guy. It's Rock and Roll. It's Shipwreck. And he would say, never mix random chemicals. Leave that to the adults. Harmful chemicals can produce harmful odors. So I thought about doing something like that, where there's some newbie getting, his 3rd credit card in 4 months. And he's like, I don't need Chase cards. I want to get this awesome Barclays card. And then I step in and said, I wouldn't do that if I were you. And he's like, it's Dugroz from Dugroz Reports. Don't you know the Chase 524 rule? Or something like that. So that's kind of dumb, but I thought it would be a good idea and a fun idea. Because knowing's half the battle. G.I. Joe. That's right, QC man. You got it. All right. I need to catch up on comments just a little bit here. We talked about Casey's gas station bathrooms. Yuri G says he's telling that Casey's accepts Amex. Oh, okay. That's where I didn't understand. I didn't know that Marriott Business was an Amex. I do. I had just forgotten. So thank you for clarifying that. Yes, Casey's now takes Amex in all forms, both Apple Pay and regular card. But it used to be, I don't know why, they would only take the physical card. They would not take it in Apple Pay. Yuri says, can I use DD at Casey's? I have one nearby. I don't know the answer to that. DoorDash is what Yuri is referencing. And Ron says, I'm a little behind. How did you get to run the chain gang? That looks like a fun way to watch the game. It is, and you get in for free. Well, I don't know how all schools do it, but they just ask parents to volunteer. So they send out like an email, like sign up here to run the chain gang. I officiated high school for 15 years, so really not a big deal in my case. QC Man says, a clean gas station bathroom? Such a thing exists? It did. The Rewards Master is here. Hey, everyone. Glad to be here. Glad to see you, Rewards Master. How you doing? Oh, hey, and look. My brother from another mother, Cesar Joel, is also here. Mi hermano. Fleet Easily says the unveiling of Sergeant Dugroz 4. I'm not sure what that's supposed to be, but I'm sure that's a play on Sergeant Slaughter. Ketch says, yes, this would be awesome, the G.I. Joe PSA idea. A couple people saying hi to each other. Let's keep moving along. We got 25 of these today. Number 2 is The Card is Right game show. So this is like The Price is Right. Just play a game show called The Card is Right, where you have, different ways of, I don't know. It could be like, now if you want to buy a gym membership, you could use the this card or this card or this card. You want to get as close as possible to 5% cash back without going over. Probably would be a lot of work for very little payoff, but still a fun idea. I really love doing humor-based videos that don't teach you a whole lot, but it seems like about 200 people will absolutely love the video, but outside of my diehardiest diehards, it won't get much of an audience, which is why I don't do as many funny videos. QC Man says, did you add a few extra yards to your son's carries? He got a first down every play. My son is an offensive lineman, so he didn't really get any carries. And no, I didn't cheat, but I could see why someone might be tempted to be just like, let's move it just an inch or two and see what happens. But no, I'm above board with that. Remember, there's a tip jar link down there if you want to give an anonymous gift or just a gift that is something where I keep a little bit higher percentage than what YouTube takes away. Video idea number 3 is you can move points between chase cards. Well, they're not all funny. This is just a really basic kind of 101 type video. I actually saw a comment once where somebody didn't seem to understand that you can move points between chase cards. So like this person thought if you earn on a Freedom Flex, you have to take cash back, and they didn't know you can move that to a Sapphire, Preferred, Reserve, etc., etc. So just a simple video that wouldn't be news to any of my big fans, but maybe new people would be like, oh, yeah, good info. You can move points between chase cards. Number 4, the path to the Ritz-Carlton, and more specifically, why and is it worth taking? Now, I've mentioned this several times on my live stream, but I've never done a dedicated video about it. You probably know I picked up the Marriott Bonvoy card. Bonvoy, which one did I get? The Brilliant? The $95 Chase one. I can't remember what it's called. Boundless. I got the Boundless back in September. And after a year, I'm going to strongly consider upgrading that to a Ritz-Carlton. So just why would you do it? Is it worth taking that path? All the pros and cons with waiting a whole year, those kind of things. Seems like it would be a fruitful video, although I know other people have made things along those lines. Rewards Master said, when my son played high school football, I was the announcer. It was so hard to keep the same tone of voice when he scored versus other players. I would imagine. I've thought about volunteering as announcer, but it seems like every time I go to sign up, it's already full. It's kind of one of those things where once one guy starts doing it and he does a halfway decent job, he just keeps doing it. But yeah, I can see why that would be the case. QC Man says, even though it's not hard to do, I think Chase could make it easier to move points between cards or just have a pool of points like Amex. Yeah, that would be nice. I also think, or at least in my case, no, they've now made it every single time you combine points, they have to send you a text message for 2-factor authentication. Authentication, that's what it's called. That gets really old when it's like, oh, I've got 183 points on this card. Move, text message, enter. I've got 2,000 points on this card. Move, text message, enter. I've been loading them all onto my CSR before Monday. By the way, public service announcement from G.I. Joe. Remember, on October 27th, your CSR points are going to be locked in, and anything you earn before the 27th will get 1.5 minimum for 2 years. So if you have any stray chase points, make sure you move them over to your CSR. I'd do it before Monday. I'm not sure if you're allowed to do it on Monday and still have it count or not. So why risk it? Just do it by no later than Sunday night. Do it tonight. Moving along. Number 5 is, why are all the hotels in Kearney, Nebraska so highly rated? And I have to thank 2 fellow content creators for this one. I know this seems like really oddly specific. Chad from Chad's Money Minutes was traveling for work and went to Kearney, Nebraska. And John from John's Points and Miles, John's Credit and Travel. Sorry, John R. I can't remember your official channel name, who lives in Kansas City, drove to Kearney, Nebraska to do a one-on-one meetup with Chad. And there was something he mentioned in John's breakdown video about that, about like, yeah, all the hotels here are really nice. So just out of sheer curiosity, I went out and looked, and I'm going to share this with you and show you what I mean here. I was like, it's just weird. It's like bizarre. Let's just look at a few. First of all, here on the east side of the interstate, we all know the east side's not as good when it comes to hotels. Kidding. Let's just see what we got. This is the Microtel by Wyndham, which is a 4.4 out of 5. Even the Motel 6 is 4.2. Those are usually down in the 2s and 3s. Here's a Country Inn that's a 4.2. Here's a Days Inn that's 4.7. A Days Inn that's 4.7. A Ramada is 3.2. Okay, apparently they didn't get the memo. What do we got down here? We got Holiday Inn, 4.5. We got a Best Western, 4.5. Another Holiday Inn, 4.4. I think the first one was a Holiday Inn Express. American, 3.9. Quality Inn, 3.7. Okay, they didn't get the memo. La Quinta, 4.6. Comfort Inn, 4.6. Candlewood Suites, 4.6. Hampton Inn, 4.7. Fairfield Inn, 4.7. And the Coup d'etat, a Crown Plaza, 4.5. What the... Wait, I think there's one that's even more impressive. Where is it here? True by Hilton, 4.6. There it is. Home to Suites, 4.9. What the crud is going on in Kearney, Nebraska? I suppose there's probably, you know, like the saying, one bad apple spoils the whole bunch. Also, when one person really excels, everybody else kind of has to up their game. But yeah, for whatever reason, the hotels in Kearney, Nebraska are all super highly rated. And I thought I'd look into that, see if I could figure out a pattern. QC Man says, even though it's, oh, we already talked about that. And QC Man also says, I thought the movement date for the CSR was like 2 days ago. If anybody can find the for sure press release, let us know. I'm always willing to admit when I'm wrong, or at least in theory I am. Moving on, number 6. Is Chase 524 worth waiting for? So this is just the standard question of, you know, do you modify your strategy and avoid opening personal cards to stay under 524? We know people like Filmo would say the answer is no. I was a good boy and got under Chase 524 recently so that I could work on my Marriott Boundless card and start the path to the Ritz-Carlton. But there's a lot of variability there. So I think you could have a whole video discussing whether or not it's worth waiting for. Yuri points out that October 26th is the day. That would be Sunday. So do it today, or in the words of, it's either Patty or Selma from The Simpsons, do it now, now, now. Matt Clausen thought it was pronounced Kearney, Nebraska. Maybe. There's a little tiny township here in central Iowa pronounced Kearney, so I was just assuming. Check Raise You said, I got 4 personal cards just in the past 6 weeks. Whoa. So apparently Chase 524 is not worth waiting for in your judgment. New Again says, Doug, lean into Dr. Doug and Mr. Roz. You can even do short PSAs from each point of view. I do need to do that. I've been waiting to go to like Salvation Army or Goodwill and buy a pair of overalls that would fit me so I can get into Mr. Roz's character. Maybe even some of those like icky teeth, like hick teeth that you can get at like a Halloween store. MR says, the only way to win is not to play, hence why I don't do chase at all. To each their own. Yeah, that could be part of the discussion. Exactly. Travel, Learn, Repeat says, I'm still on the original annual fee for the reserve card. I personally can use 2 edits, the $300 credit and the StubHub credit. Should I keep? Heck yes. If you still got the $500, $550 annual fee, keep that as long as you can until you get the new annual fee. That's what happened to me. Mine renewed in August. So I have until August to test drive it starting Monday. Yeah, it's like blow you out of the water good for at least a year. You've got the 2 edit credits for $250 each, so that's $500. Another $250 in calendar year 2026 for IHGs and a few others, minor hotels, whatever. That's $750. The StubHub credit, $300. You've got your normal $300. Now we're up to like what? $1,050, $1,350 just from those. It is definitely worth it now. Whether it will be in the future is to be seen. Hey, look, LN drops 149 as a super sticker. I can't tell what the sticker is because of StreamYard, so you can describe it to me. But 2 things. 1, celebrate. 2, that's the magic number. I hereby crown you with 1,000 Dugroz points. Maybe you can use them at Bennigan's this weekend. Matt says, I assume the Kearney hotels are so highly rated because Kearney's a refugee of civilization. There's nothing around Kearney. What do you mean there's nothing? I very clearly saw there was a RV park and campground. There's an archway that goes over the interstate. That's interesting. There's a Cabela's. Yeah, if you like buying fishing gear and hunting gear. You've got a regional airport. You've got a Target. Oh, man, there's plenty to do in Kearney, Nebraska. I'm just kidding. If you're not sure where Kearney is, it's right here in the middle of nowhere. Us Iowans like to make fun of Nebraska because they're just basically Interstate 80 and fields on either side. Anywho, it said that I lost my audio very briefly on my screen. So please let me know if you can hear me talking right now or if there's any problem with the audio. Sorry about that if there was an issue. Back to here, going to share this tab, going to make it large. Okay. Number 7 is video on closing cards, and more specifically, why it's okay / should you. So you know that I don't have a problem closing cards. And part of the reason is because I have a rather thick and hearty credit history. I've had credit cards since the year 2000, actually slightly before. So closing a card, unless I close like one of my 2 or 3 oldest cards, I've got 3 big time legacy cards, the Wells Fargo Golden Ponies card, US Bank Cash Plus, and then Capital One card, which is now my Venture X. As long as I avoid closing those 3, it's really no big deal. But some people seem to have a minor heart attack every time I mention that I closed a card. Like, why would you close a no annual fee card? It's like, well, you know what? I've already got like 35 cards right now between my wife and I, personal and business. And I really don't want to get up to 50. So just managing the card, those kind of things. So I thought that could be a video, like just kind of giving people a pep talk on why it's okay to close credit cards. You don't have to leave them open forever. Of course, if you have a thinner credit file, you'll want to be a lot more careful about that. I'm going to assume my audio is okay because nobody has complained. John did speak up and say, I met up with Chad of Chad's Money Minute in Kearney, Nebraska. Hey, you were the inspiration for that thought process, John. I don't know if you picked up on that or not. But yeah, when you drove to meet Chad, you mentioned like the hotel was really nice. So of course, being the geek that I am, I looked it up online and found out that like with a couple exceptions, every hotel is rated like 4.4 or better. Yuri says, I have more than 80 cards. I never close no annual fee cards. Exactly. That's what we could discuss in this hypothetical video. John says the sound is okay. All right. Well, it must have just been a psych out then. Psych. Got to mute. Number 8. The review of the State Farm business cards. Speaking of cards that I've closed. So for like a year, I got the State Farm business card, mostly because it was A, a business card, and B, it had 0% interest for a year. It is slightly compelling in that you get 3% cash back on insurance premiums, but only up to the first $4,000, maybe $5,000. It's an okay card. The only reason I would review it is because like nobody else reviews it. It's issued by US Bank, if you're wondering. DEM says, wow, Yuri. And QC Man says, Filmo would get a heart attack if you close that Golden Ponies card. So it's good to know it's safe. It is safe. By the way, one of my channel members has a little surprise for all of us that will be coming in the near future regarding something to do with the Golden Ponies card. And I'll just leave you in suspense other than that. Check Raise You says, I closed my Amex no annual fee Charles Schwab card to hopefully make room for the Hilton Surpass. All 3 Amex Hilton cards is all I really want at this point. I can see that. I like big targeted offers from Amex, but I don't generally earn Amex points from everyday spend. So it's not really much of a thing for me, but I am clinging to my Hilton Surpass card. Next, number 9, we have things I regret learning in the game. Well, that sounds kind of weird. Hey, we're over 70 people. Thank you. Go and keep smashing the thumbs up button. What do I mean by things I regret learning? I feel like when I first got into points and miles, I was a newbie. And for the first 6 months, it was all wonderful. For the first year, still learning things, but not at as high of a rate. And that parabola kind of starts to level off. I feel like there was almost a sweet spot between like my first anniversary of getting into points and miles and my second anniversary. I had the perfect balance of enough information to get good value, but not enough information to lose my naivete. And there's a few things I've learned that I actually kind of regret learning, where it almost takes away that specialness. You'll never get back the first time you booked some amazing hotel with points, those kind of things. So like one thing I regret learning is there really is no such thing as a free lunch. So when you say, I got a free hotel stay or I got a free plane ticket, well, there's opportunity cost. At a bare minimum, you could have used a 2% cash back card and it would have been this much. Or I'm not sure if Spaithco is on board, but the nasty truth that because you can buy points, sometimes just saving up money through cash back, etc., and buying points is actually the best value. It doesn't feel as free when you go out and buy points, but when you really do the math, you realize that might be better. One example is like, and I hope I don't offend anybody by saying this, but I'm speaking the truth in love here. Generally speaking, using Hilton cards for everyday spend is not a good idea, in my opinion. You actually are slightly better off just finding the best cash back card and then buying the points. Now, there are exceptions. Sometimes there's targeted offers. Maybe you have a Surpass and you're working your way towards $15,000 of spend to get the free night certificate. And for sure you can get lots of value out of that free night certificate. There are exceptions. But for someone like me that's only going to be spending $3,000 a year at a traditional grocery store, not counting Walmart, Costco, etc., putting the $3,000 in my Hilton Surpass is probably not as good as just finding out how I can get the most cash back on grocery and then just buying the points, most likely. So that's something I kind of regret. It kind of takes the specialness out of it. Catching up on the conversation. Luke says, I've closed a ton of cards. I just closed a Hilton Honors card a few minutes ago. Great. Glad that you agree with me, at least a little bit, or at least in part. And Cesar says, I cancel most cards after 12 months with or without annual fees, and my FICO scores are 846, 840, and 822. Yeah, if you have a thick credit profile, it's not a big deal. You might drop 4 points temporarily. Yuri says, I canceled my Amex OBP for the same reason. I need a slot for my Hilton card. QC Man says, Cesar, how many are usually active with all the cancellations? Around 15? Yuri says, I canceled I think we already read that one. Yuri says, this is the other Yuri BSU. I do not close no annual fee cards that do nothing for, excuse me, I do close no annual fee cards that do nothing for me at some point. Gentleman Explorer drops a $1.49 super sticker. Ooh, tell me what the sticker is. Celebrate, celebrate. I hereby present you with a plate of 1,000 Dugroz points. Thank you so much for driving the algorithm. Yuri G says, I was thinking that some no annual fee cards are not useful for me, but at some point they become useful. Okay, I can see that. Check You Ray says, you know it's FNCs, free night certificates. 9 for 90K and spend works for me. Oh, you're going for 9 free night certificates? You must get some really good value out of it. And I certainly acknowledge that is possible. Just my lifestyle is not quite as suited for that as yours is. New Again says, I might need to close my 2 Barclays AA cards because Citi gets them. Get ahead of account reporting issues. I've had cards seen as new when they're not. On the other hand, that might be the only way to ever get those cards. Matt says, non-Amex direct cards don't count with Amex. So if you're up against the Amex wall, canceling the Schwab does jack and squat. Oh, so like they're kind where you go to like some other website, like the Schwab website to apply, don't count. Are you sure there's not some sort of soft counting? I kind of wonder. QC Man says, Cesar says 2 QC. Currently, I keep around 15 to 22 active personal cards and 13 closed personal cards. I don't count business cards. New Again says, everyone loves things I regret in this game content for several different reasons. Awesome. So people saying hi to each other. Very good. Still have 70 people on board. Keep on smashing the button. Number 10. Health in Great Britain. This stems back to the first time my family went to Great Britain in 2023. So I'm not the healthiest guy in the entire world. I've got some steps I could take. Probably could stand to lose a couple pounds. I also have asthma. And with my asthma, I have an inhaler. Well, you've seen me use it before. And I use that usually like when I'm talking a lot or walking or a couple times a day. Interestingly, the first time I went to Great Britain without even trying, I lost 7 pounds and I used my inhaler way less. Like I almost didn't use it hardly at all. I think that's probably because the air is fresher there than it is here in the United States. If nothing else, we don't have all this corn dust and that kind of stuff. And some combination of walking a lot more combined with, their food has a lot less artificial stuff in it. I just got healthier. Now, the second time we went, I didn't experience it as much. So I suppose you could say it might be partially coincidental. I did lose like 3 or 4 pounds the second time around. Of course, I gained them back, unfortunately. But just an interesting thought experiment. Why was my health in Great Britain a lot better than it is here in the U.S.? Shrug. I can speculate. Number 11 is using small airports for connections. And the only way I can describe this is to use an example. So like we often think about, if you're flying from Des Moines to New York City, you might fly from Des Moines with a layover in Atlanta if you're flying Delta, and then Atlanta to New York City. Why doesn't the opposite prove true? For example, you can take Delta and fly from Des Moines to Detroit. You can also fly from Des Moines to Atlanta. So why don't they ever route you from Detroit to Des Moines to Atlanta? You could. I mean, we got the planes flying. Or American flies to New York LaGuardia. They also fly to Dallas. So if you want to go from New York City to Dallas, and let's say you have a friend that lives in Des Moines, Iowa, who's a small-time YouTuber, and maybe you want to get a 4-hour layover and go to lunch with this random friend, why can't you just get a ticket with LaGuardia to Des Moines, layover in Des Moines, fly on to Dallas? You never see that being routed, and I wondered if that's because it's not possible or if it's just so far down the list of results that it doesn't make sense. If I called Delta or called American, what would they say? If you want to fly from Houston to Dallas via Des Moines, why can't you do that? And I only use Des Moines because that's where I live and I know all the different connections. But, you could have a layover in Grand Rapids, Michigan, or a layover in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Why doesn't that ever come up? And is there some barely known hack out there that would make that profitable? I mean, we've all seen times before when flying, like, I'm making something up here. I don't even know if United flies to Omaha, but let's say Denver to Omaha is $300, but for some reason, Denver to Omaha, continuing on to Des Moines, which is a flight that doesn't actually exist, is only $200. So by adding on this extra city at the end, you can save money. Maybe there's some hack out there, and maybe I can experiment with it. I'll catch up on comments now. Check You Ray says, I'll let you know if it changes my auto denials for Amex for too many cards. Luke says, I have a hard time seeing someone beat the HH Biz Card 5X as a catch-all. So, yeah, I can see it both ways. In my use case, no, because I can buy Hilton points for 0.5 cents each. So that would be the equivalent of earning 2.5% cash back. I don't know. I think I would rather have just 2 cents on the dollar rather than 2.5 cents, but I have to use it for Hilton. Just a thought. But if you're someone that just uses Hilton so much, it could be worth it. Especially when 1 cent per point is so easy. Yeah, but you don't base it on what you're getting for a redemption. Base it on your buy-in value. That's my thought process. Rex says, no, English food is a curse. Terrible. Oh, okay. Cesar paying homage to some of his hermanos. And QC Man thinks Rex's comment on British food is funny. New Again says, highly churnable cards should be closed ASAP. Like the Barclays Double Egg Red. I got that best sub in the game at least 4 times over the years. Good point. LN says, the Shop Your Way card is now appearing as Citi Thank You MasterCard in linking services like Plaid, Finicity, etc. Seems like that's going to be the replacement card on November 3rd. Citi Thank You MasterCard. I don't even know what that is. Also says there's some info on Citi's website that it might earn 5 thank you points on gas, 3x on groceries and dining, 2x on department stores and pharmacies, 1x everywhere else. That would actually be a really strong card if that's true. I can't imagine. 5x on gas, non-rotating, not capped. Seems too good to be true, but Citi does weird things, so who knows? Yuri G says, to Luke, you can get 4 to 5% cash back and buy 8 to 10 Hilton points with that. Luke says, wait a minute, your health is better when you're 1,000,000 miles away from work? Get out of here. Seriously? Yeah, that is kind of stating the obvious, isn't it? Imagine Wrong is here. How you doing, Imagine? And says, skip lag might work for that purpose, finding alternative routes through different airports. It might. So I could do like if skip lagging, here's one example. If not skip lagging, here's another example. And John says, right? Like what? Not having the stress of work for 2 weeks makes you healthier? No. Walking makes you healthier? Breathing fresh air? I'm shocked, I tell you. Yuri says, I have the Citi Thank You MasterCard. It doesn't earn 5x on gas. And Luke says, to Yuri, I don't have a 5% catch-all, unless it's a prepaid Visa card, in which case we're talking about too much work. It's a debate worth having, certainly. Rewards Master says, perhaps you lost weight in Great Britain because the food was bland. I know I never eat as much there. That's possible. Also, maybe their portions aren't as big. I'm well suited to British food. I like kind of meat and potatoes, bland food. I'm not a spicy guy. I like Mexican restaurants, but it's the Americanized Mexican food where they cater to us gringos. And if they bring out mild sauce, but it's sort of like that borderline mild sauce, like it's halfway between mild and medium, I might have to add a little ketchup to kind of tone it down. Chad says in regards to number 11, small airport, it boils down to published routes. They do connections in hubs, not spokes. They can manually route you to spokes for connections, but they stick to the published routes. Yeah, that makes me wonder, like if I called American and specifically requested that route and asked them to price it for me, would it be better? Yuri says points and miles, says to Luke rather, there is one, but it's hard to get. That's a card that is 5% catch-all. John says, breaking news, touching grass makes you healthier. Cesar says, I canceled the business Hilton when they took away the free night after spending $15K. Yeah, that was a huge bummer, wasn't it? The Blue Business Plus can get 5x plus Hilton points during transfer offers for 0. Transfer offers. What do you mean by transfer offers? I want you to clarify that just a little. Luke says, I can't buy 2 million Hilton Honors points without doing a ton of work, so I can't value them at half a penny each. That's true. If you got so much volume, you're taking a family of 20 people to Hawaii, different use case. In my case, I've got, me, my wife, my mom, dad, and what do they cap you out at $250 each? So I can buy 1 million, but I couldn't buy 2 million. Mike Newland has arrived. How you doing, Mike? Thank you, by the way, for the tip jar earlier. Celebrate. And says, you might be able to pull off that Flying Southwest, but I don't know about legacy characters. Worth experimenting. New Again says, traditional English food, hard pass. But English pub food is goated. Great international offerings, too. And I don't like eating out much, mind you. Very good. Let's move on to the next one. We're not even halfway yet. Here's almost the halfway point. Number 12, the ultimate guide to travel insurance built into cards. Now, I've hinted at this, and I've even had people request it before. Like 2 people. I think Anthony Venture requests I do it once. I often talk about how I really like the Chase CSR and the Ritz card because they have the best travel insurance hands down. And it's probably because I work in the world of insurance. I'm just really drawn to the emergency evacuation and the emergency medical dental. And I say that, but I've never really done a breakdown. Sometimes people that say, yeah, this card has travel insurance, and they kind of take like, Citi cards, the Amex cards, the Chase cards, and as long as it's like there's some sort of travel insurance, they say, oh, they're all the same. And that ticks me off. The problem is doing this topic would take a ton of research. Like I'd have to really dig into terms and conditions. Probably one of those videos that would take me 10 to 20 hours to make. And I know it would be well liked. I know people would want it. I know it would be in demand, but I don't know if the demand would equal the results. So I'm still thinking that one over. Other people have kind of touched on it, but not from the Dugroz perspective, not from the guy who literally works in the insurance industry perspective. A little bit ago, I asked Caesar what he meant by transfers involving the Blue Business Plus, and he says that's when Amex gives you an extra 25 to 30% transfer offer. Duh. Why didn't I think about that? So yeah, instead of like transferring from Amex to Hilton at 1 to 2, it becomes 1 to 2.5, 1 to 2.6, something along those lines. I don't know why I had a brain fart. Thanks, brother. Appreciate you bailing me out. Some people saying hi to each other. I got you now, bro. Yuri G says, one time I've seen 1 to 3 Hilton to Amex. Wasn't that back during COVID, I think? Check Raise You says, the Allianz travel policies for your entire family are such good value. They are pretty good. And the first time I went to England, I did buy one. I'm not sure why I'm doing this weird eyebrow thing. But they cost money. And I prefer not to spend money if I don't have to. TH has arrived. Points to Paradise. Saturday morning ritual. Keep up the good work. And drops a 2 spot on the super chat. Celebrate. Thank you so much. QC Man decides to feed the algorithm by gifting 1 Dugroz Reports membership. Celebrate. Thank you, everyone. You're very generous. And New Again say, yeah, I'd pay a few bucks extra not to go through Atlanta or Charlotte. I think that's Charlotte. Correct me if I'm wrong. Luke says, we have to create wonderful scenarios and contingencies or lots of work to get 5x Hilton on everything. So I'd say they make it tough to best. I don't disagree with you, brother. I think it's a use case scenario. In your use case, it makes lots of sense. In my use case, it doesn't. No harm in admitting that. Move along. Number 13. Now we're past the halfway point. My 5 to 10 favorite transfer partners. The name kind of says it all. Although this isn't really unique, I think what my favorites would be are unique. For example, like me and Nick from Frequent Miler are the only people who ever talk about transferring to Wyndham for the sake of doing cottages.com. Aeroplan for my Aeroplan Caravan 1.625. So even though the topic is not unique, I think my take on it would be unique. Number 14, Visa Infinite Showdown. The Chase Sapphire Reserve, US Bank Altitude Reserve, Venture X, etc. Somebody suggested this to me once. I don't remember who, so if you're on board, feel free to raise your hand. So take the Visa Infinite cards and just compare them to each other and have a showdown. Which one's best? You would have to consider, excuse me, you would have to consider not only points earning, what the points are worth, who the transfer partners are, et cetera, et cetera. This will be a lot more compelling after we get past December 13th, 14th, or whenever US Bank gets their transfer partners. So maybe first quarter of next year, I can do this showdown, compare their travel insurances, so on and so forth, and just kind of declare a winner of the Visa Infinite cards. Who is the winner? Is there another Visa Infinite I'm not thinking of? I think there are for some lesser known banks, but those are the main ones we think about in our space. Luke loves the idea of travel insurance. Please do it so I don't have to. Will do, Luke. Thank you. Although you might need to give me a year or two. Yuri G says, I canceled Hilton business because I needed a spot for Hilton personal. Ritz. LN says, it's very deep in the terms and conditions on Citi's website, but there's a new card listed on there with earning rates similar to the current Shop Your Way card. I guess we'll find out soon enough. Yuri mentions the CNB Crystal is a Visa Infinite. I remember that now. What's the name of the bank? It's not Citi. It's not Chase. It's Cromulent National Bank. That's it. Cromulent National Bank Visa Infinite card is the Crystal. Oh, I hit a button and tried to cancel my... If I lose you, come on back. City National Bank with a Y, not Citi with an I. Thank you. Appreciate that, Yuri. Number 15. The best cards for dads. Perhaps a Father's Day topic. Again, kind of generic, but I think I would, put my own spin on it well enough that, I could have a good best credit cards for dads, like, Ace Hardware, Menards, I don't know, what are some other dad things? Restaurants, gas stations, like Cabela's or Sportsman's Warehouse. What do you call those? Sporting goods stores, that kind of stuff. Seems pretty self-explanatory. LN says, the Citi Thank You MasterCard for core card members is the name of the card, very deep in terms and conditions. Yep. And QC Man reminds us that the Bank of America PRE is a Visa Infinite, if I recall correctly. Very well, maybe. Oh, Hooters. Filmo reminds us. Dad credit card for Hooters. Hooters is a restaurant, Filmo. Did I read somewhere that there's some major change coming to Hooters? Like, one side of my brain thinks they're going out of business. The other side of my brain thinks they're moving to a more family-friendly, like, less emphasis on the Hooters waitresses, more emphasis on the environment. Maybe I'm just making that up. Anybody want to Google it? I may or may not share the screen for obvious reasons. This is a family-friendly program. Filmo mainly likes it for the food. Number 16, why I have very few co-branded cards. Although, having recently opened my Marriott Bonvoy card, I feel like a little bit of a hypocrite saying this, but I'm not so much opening that because of my love of Marriott so much as all the ancillary benefits. Similar to the Aeroplan card, I don't have the Aeroplan card because of my love for Aeroplan. In fact, the only co-branded card I have for the purpose of the partner itself, racking my brain here, is the Hilton Surpass card, I think. Me being an infrequent traveler, being kind of an everyday kind of guy, mostly cheaper domestic travel. I'm a free agent. I think you guys know why, but I still think it could make a fairly compelling video. New Again says the issue with travel insurance is it varies greatly depending on the actual benefit administrator's operations and the claim complexities. Comparing Chase versus Amex versus Capital One isn't cromulent. That's a great point, but it also kind of feeds into why I might do a video. I think I could bring up that point in the video itself. Similar to why there are some exceptions, but for the most part, if I'm buying a durable good like a dishwasher, I will put it on an Amex card because one time I had such a good experience with the damage. My son broke his guitar thing, which I don't think you would get such easy claim handling. You know, like the US Bank Altitude Reserve has the same kind of protections, extended warranty, break it in the first 3 months, that kind of stuff. But they farm it out to some third party, and I don't know if I would trust them as much. Check Raise You says, let's be honest, the dad card already exists. It's the US Bank Cash Plus. Let's see. Fast food, gyms and workout centers, and paying your utility bills. That is very dadish. Maybe it could just be cards for dads, not just one card. QC Man says, what isn't family friendly about the Hooters waitresses? They're highly qualified and well-motivated individuals. Filmo said it, or New Again says 2 Filmos. It would definitely be a Barclays card. And Filmo says, I think their wings are good, but I was distracted. LN says to Yuri G, I've had the Shop Your Way card since 2018. I think they gave me some sort of discount on our new appliances for opening it. Everson L6724 says to QC Man, thank you for the membership reward. Hey, good to meet you, Everson. Glad to see you on board. And thank you for mentioning QC Man. New Again says, can't make a family without Hooters. IJS. I don't know what IJS stands for. Maybe I'm too innocent, but we'll just let that comment kind of hang out there. wait, where's my favorite new meme gif? There it is. This is going to your comment, New Again. All right, let's move along here. Number 17, the watering down effect of multiple ecosystems. I mentioned this in one of my Dugroz lecture series videos like 2 years ago. My only lecture series video to date. I plan on coming back to it. It was about city, and I was making the case against city, which I'm realizing I'm leaning into it, so I'm kind of hypocritical now. But if I ever revisit that, the idea was at that time, I said there's not much that City offers me that I can't get with other cards. So by expanding into yet another ecosystem, I'm effectively kind of watering down my point totals. I would rather have 90,000 points in one ecosystem than 30 here, 30 here, 30 there. Now, do I still feel that way? And it doesn't have to be about City specifically. It's a good topic to discuss regardless of whether or not I feel that way. Is there a watering down effect when you get into multiple ecosystems? How many is too many? And I'll be honest with you, I have them all right now. I have Amex, Chase, Citi, Wells Fargo, Capital One. So the 5 big ones, at least, that are transferable. Technically, I have Built. I don't have the Built card, but I get the rewards. I'm talking about the Shop Your Way card. And QC Man says, I think a large number of Hooters closed recently, but they didn't get totally eviscerated like TGIF did. There are still many around, including one close to where I live that I may or may not have gone to. Check Raise You reminds me that the US Bank Cash Plus has sporting goods as a category. Ah, yes. And QC Man is glad to have you on board, Everson. I am as well. Number 18. Oh, for number 17, I forgot to add this last point. Is it real? Is it a concern, the watering down effect? Well, yes, of course it's real. Is it a concern? It depends. Number 18. Group all of my cards by stands categories: core, benefits, and bench. And this is a hat tip to fellow content creator on hiatus, Stan the Credit Frog, who says all of his credit cards fits in one of 3 categories. Core would be cards that actually get quite a bit of usage on a somewhat regular basis. Benefits are cards that I have for the benefits, but not for spending. For example, you might have the Amex Platinum for lounge access, but what's going on with me? Hiccups, burps? I apologize, folks. But you probably wouldn't use the Amex Platinum for much everyday spend. And then bench would be like your sock drawer cards. Like they're off to the side. They provide a benefit here and there, but not a lot of use. An example might be like if you have the Hyatt card, you pull it out just when you stay at a Hyatt, that kind of thing. So I could do that. That'd be a pretty easy one to make, especially with Rich with Points' new whiteboard for cards. That would be easy, and he has the tier system. IJS means I'm just saying. Oh, can't make a fan without Hooters. I'm just saying. Yuri responds to check raise you. I have a card with 5% unlimited sporting goods category. Good. Care to share what it is? And Yuri G also says, and a tune is 4x for sporting goods, unlimited. Hey, I like that idea because then you get Wells Fargo points or cash. Luke D. Johnson said, I like the Visa Infinite number 14 showdown idea. Great. Thanks for being on board, Luke. Think I have a comment from you coming later in the video. Just hang in there. Number whatever's next, 19. Things we do in our community that make us look poor or dumb. There must have been some specific thing I did that made me think of this, and I don't remember what it does, but isn't it ironic that we use our points and miles to take these epic vacations that make us look rich, but in order to make it happen on the earning side, sometimes we do things that make us look like the world's biggest cheapskates. And although I can't remember what originally inspired me to think this, one example I could think of is there was a period of time where I was wanting to get more points on gas than grocery. So I would go to the Hy-Vee gas station like every week or two, walk in, buy a $100 Hy-Vee gift card because it coded as gas. Then I would immediately drive to the other side of the parking lot, walk in, and pay with that gift card. And the cashiers probably thought I was either a drug dealer or some sort of cheapskate or idiot or something like that. Have you ever kept a few credit cards in your car and you're like, oh, does this get 3x or 2x? I can't remember. And you're like rummaging through your credit cards for a $4.98 item at the drive-thru, trying to make sure you maximize it. Sometimes it legitimately makes us look dumb. Sometimes it makes us look dumb, but we're actually geniuses. Another one I thought of, and this isn't necessarily dumb, but it probably made me look like a jerk, but I was going to do it anyway, was, do you remember long time ago, way back July 1st of 2024, before that date, the Chase Sapphire Reserve had the type of priority pass that got restaurants and lounge access. So when you went to a priority pass restaurant, excuse me, I don't remember if it was yourself plus one guest or yourself plus two guests. I think it was yourself plus two guests. In the summer of 2024, when we were flying into Washington, D.C., we flew in right before 4th of July. It was like June 30th or something like that. So I knew I had like 2 days left before that party pass went away. I also have the US Bank Altitude Reserve, which gets you a fixed quantity, 8 visits, and I didn't want to use up all my 8 visits. So what I wanted to do was put the first 3, I have a family of 4, first 3 on the CSR's priority pass and the 1 extra on the Altitude Reserve's priority pass. So with the Altitude Reserve, I had it on my app. With the Chase Sapphire Reserve, I had it on my card. I had the app open on my phone, like laying face up with the barcode showing for the Altitude Reserve, and I had the card for the CSR, and the waitress walks up to me and says, oh, are you doing priority pass today? And I said, yep, we're going to do a priority pass. And without asking my permission, she just takes the little scanner thing and scans the QR code on my phone, beep, 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 4 times like that. And I was like, no, what are you doing? Don't do that. She's like, well, it's fine. It went through. And I was like, no. I have 2 different priority passes. I want to use different ones. She's like, no, it's fine. All 4 of them went through. Look, you're getting the meals for free. And I'm like, you don't understand. This one is a fixed quantity and this one's expiring in 2 days. You have to use this one first. And she's like, you want me to cancel them? Like, yes. And she was like, all right, I canceled all of them. What do you want me to do? I'm like, use this one on the card for the first 3, then use this one for the last one. And she did it. But I'm sure to this day, she probably still tells her coworkers what a dumb jerk I was, but I had a good reason. I needed to use the free ones that are unlimited before I used the fixed quantity ones. So things we do in our community that make us look poor or dumb or like irrationally picky. If you have a fun example, let me know. But I thought that would be kind of a fun video. I would have to collect more examples. Let's see. DEM says, this was back on the watering down ecosystems thing. 2 ecosystems max for me. I prefer concentration over diversification. Yeah, but then a good sign-up bonus comes along. Yuri G says 5% for sporting goods are grandfathered on the Ducks Unlimited NRA card. Yes, that's right. It was originally the NRA card, but because pews are too unpopular, First National Bank of Omaha had to rebrand it as a Ducks Unlimited card. And if you got in on the old version, you got to keep the 5% on sporting goods. I think anybody who signs up nowadays, you get like 1.5 everywhere, which is lame. QC Man says, whenever I see people using the platinum in the wild, I always think they are definitely not a credit card maximizer unless they're doing the sub. I think that too. I've seen people. I remember on an airplane once, somebody was paying for like a beer or something, and he paid with a CSR, and I kind of was like, this was back when it got 3x on all travel. Smart man. Fleet Easily says, singing like it's raining on your wedding day. Oh, that's from, what's it called? We don't talk about Bruno, no. Or maybe it's not. But I have thought about doing a video called We Don't Talk About Verbo, no. Anyway. DEM says, Rewards Master just posted a great video on topic number 18. Oh, I forgot what it was already. Oh, grouping all the cards by core, benefits, and bench. Yeah, it's an easy one to do, so I probably should get around to doing it someday. New Again says, to Yuri G, the Attune doesn't have extended warranty or purchase protection, which I need for my sporting goods. Does the Cash Plus have it? Yuri G says to New Again, it includes pews. And QC Man says yourself +1 for the majority of restaurants. Yeah, I couldn't remember if it was 3 or 2. One of those. John's LOLing my story. QC Man says, TBF, you did have the app just open. That's true, but I didn't say here, please scan it. It was just like laying off to the side. TH thinks it's funny. I'm glad. And Yuri G says, I now have 3 cards which include restaurants with Priority Pass. DEM says, number 19, buy $200 Amazon gift cards every week or 2 through Best Buy/Rakuten for 4x Biz Gold plus 1x Rakuten. That would make you look kind of dumb, but I would still support it. No firearms, and the lethal weapon is my mind. Haha. That was from New Again. Okay, let's keep on going here, pressing ahead. Number 20 is top 5 underrated redemptions. This one pretty much speaks for itself. Don't know I need to say a lot, but that's kind of like top 10 favorite redemptions, but maybe I could use specific redemptions like, I don't know, this specific Hyatt Hotel in Moline, Illinois, only 5,000 points per night, you know, kind of boring, but also kind of underrated. Number 21, we're in the last 5. Should I spend my way to a free night certificate on the Hilton Surpass? Although you could also apply this to any card that has a big spend bonus, like the Aspire, the IHG business card, etc., etc. And earlier, Check Raise You said he does like 9 of these a year or something like that. But yeah, I think that could be a good video topic. Is it worth doing the 15,000 of spend on the Surpass, specifically get to a free night certificate and just say, you know, I valued it this much. These are the points I earn along the way. This is how I would likely use it. And then make 3 or 4 alternatives for how you could spend $15,000 and would that be better, etc., etc. Let's keep going. Number 22, a video that comments on these video ideas. I literally wrote that down on my list, and that's what I'm doing right now. A video that comments on these video ideas. Whether or not I would ever make it into a standalone video or not, TBD. I don't know. Number 23. When you're this deep in the game, deciding on your next card can be tough. Yeah, about a year ago, I started kind of running into what feels like I have now officially transitioned from mid-game to late game when I started getting denied. I got denied for an ink card, although later on I did actually get one. I got denied for a city double cash. I got denied for, I think, one other. It's not coming to mind right now, even though it was a bit of a long shot. So you have to be a little more strategic, use a little more strategery when you're this deep in the game. Also, you have to think about like, okay, I have this card with this annual fee and the anniversary is coming due here, and this is when I close it. You know, picking your first 5 cards is way easier in my judgment than doing your 31st card or something like that. Kind of have to run through this grid of closing. You know, do I get into a new ecosystem? Like, you know, let's say I didn't have any city cards. Would I open the city Strata Elite just for the sign-up bonus? Even if it was my first city card, I have to integrate myself into a whole new ecosystem. You have it's 100,000 points versus then you have this watering down effect. You still haven't opened an Amex Gold and so on and so forth. Okay, I'm going to let the top earnings thing go here for a while because I'm starting to run out of time. Not really run out of time, but I have a small bladder, guys. I have to go to the bathroom again. I don't want to do it twice in one video. LN says, I went out to lunch with my wife recently, and we split the bill so we could use ready credits on 2 different cards. Yep, and that probably, like, anyone around you thinking, like, oh, man, they're so hard up for cash. They've almost maxed out 2 different credit cards. They can barely afford it. This is a good opportunity to tell you about becoming a channel member. I have one and only one membership level here on my channel. It's called a Dugroz Diehard. $3 a month. Join anytime, cancel anytime. I don't care if you binge all my members only videos. If you include shorts, I have over 60 live members only videos. Last week I did a blooper short for members only. Has anybody spotted that one yet? Do you know what I'm talking about? On my members only videos, one of them, well, several of them, I think there's 4 of them called Interacting with Normies, where I talk about like when you run across normal people and there's sort of this collision in the world of points and miles. In one of those member only videos, I mentioned experience with somebody talking about putting all their expenses on an Amex everyday card and just how it was kind of cool and kind of awkward at the same time. So if you want to learn about that, become a channel member. If you're not already a member and you join while the show is going, we'll have a little celebration. Thanks, Ellen. That's a good point. Number 24. Are there that many people who travel for work, and do they want to stay in the same chain they work in? So a lot of times we'll hear something like this said when you're listening to, especially the bigger YouTube channels or podcasts. Now, it'll be something like this. If you're the kind of person who travels for work and your employer reimburses you, this would be a great card because blah. Or they might say something like, well, I wouldn't get this card if it was my own personal spend, but if I'm being reimbursed for work, I would. There's also a subset of that group, and I think it's actually a large subset, where the employer tells you the hotel chain you're staying at, but you can use your own loyalty membership number. For example, I have a friend who works for a company where he does travel quite a bit, and they have a deal with Marriott. So he's always staying at Marriott's. Unfortunately, they don't let him use his own credit card. They insist he uses a corporate card, but they do let him use his own Marriott membership number. So at least he gets those earnings. So he has all these Marriott points. And he said to me before, like, do you know of any great hack for Marriott? Like hoping there'd be a hack along the lines of like Hyatt. He's like a sophomore in points and miles, not super advanced, but knows some stuff. And I'm like, Marriott's one of the harder chains to get great value out of, in my opinion, but you can get some. But my question is, one is, I feel like the number of times you hear this mentioned, like for those of you who travel for work, and I'm like, I know like one person in my entire life who travels for work regularly. Are there really that many? And two, let's say that when you travel for work, you always stay at Marriott's. Do you really want a vacation in a Marriott? Well, maybe, if it's a luxury place, it doesn't matter. But like if you're constantly staying at Hyatt places, do you want to come back to a Hyatt place? If you're constantly staying at IHGs, like Holiday Inn Expresses, do you want to use your vacation to stay at another Holiday Inn Express? It could be fun to maybe interview a few people and ask that question, was my thought. If any of you have any input, if you travel for work or know someone closely that does, did they stay at the same chain they travel in? That would be interesting. Mike coming in strong again, dropping 20 Dugroz Reports memberships. Thank you so much for the mention. Celebrate, or not the mention, but thank you for when I mention channel memberships, helping 20 new members come on board. That's just as good as a $60 super chat. Combine that with his prior $60 tip jar tip. We've got $120 coming in from Mike Newland functionally. Thank you. I cannot thank you enough for that, Mike. You are the GOAT. Travel Earn Repeat said, did I hear you mention you can use the Chase edit credits together, but it says you can only use them one at a time? $250 at the beginning, $250 at the end of the year. Sort of. Let me clarify that. So when Chase first launched the edit credits, it originally was, yes, first half of the year, second half of the year. They have now changed it, although it may not be effective until January 1st. Effective January 1st, you can use them anytime. Now, you can't technically use them on the same booking, but you could bookend them. So let's say you booked a hotel for Monday, Tuesday, and then the same hotel, same room type for Wednesday, Thursday. Just put them back to back. And you might have to tell the front desk, hey, this is me on both reservations. Can you put me in the same room? Hopefully they would honor that. So in that sense, you could use them together. I have made suggestions on videos that to make it easier on everyone, Chase should just make it a once per year $500 edit credit. Hopefully that clarifies it. John says, Mike. John also says, if you got a sub from Mike, please thank him. YouTube Experiment is here. Just got off work driving home. Do you travel for work, YouTube Experiment? QC Man thumbs up Mike, and he deserves a thumbs up. And if you haven't clicked my thumbs up, please do so. Alex A says, was just gifted a 1-month membership. Thank you. Awesome, Alex. Glad to hear that those are paying dividends. And last, but hopefully not least, number 25, it's okay to disagree in points and miles. So early in this conversation, Luke and I had a kind of sort of disagreement, although it wasn't even really a disagreement. It was more like use case. His use case is different than mine, but I think it could be an interesting video just to say like 2 different points of emphasis. Point of emphasis number 1 is don't be a jerk. Don't go around telling everyone how your way is the best way and the only way. And if you do it differently, everyone else is wrong. So that could be point of emphasis number 1. Point of emphasis number 2 could be just using wisdom in terms of knowing when it's okay to point out a flaw. And I have felt like there's a fine line, and it's a fuzzy gray line between somebody using points and miles incorrectly, like actually wrong, and somebody just having a different preference. Let me give you a couple examples. If somebody transferred points 1-to-1 from Chase to IHG to fund an entire hotel stay, and there was a sale going on where you could straight up buy IHG points for a half cent each, I would say objectively that person's doing it wrong. That is a flaw. And even though it might be awkward, I think you would be doing them a favor to say, hey, much love to you, brother, but you're doing it wrong. You're actually costing yourself points because you could use half as many points by just cashing out your Chase points and buying. I think that's an objective flaw. Now, notice I gave a few qualifiers. I said when there's a point sale going on, when they're buying the whole thing with that kind of funding. I've transferred points before when it's just a top-off situation where you just need that last few points. Having another frog in my throat. In the words of Boss Nass from Star Wars Episode 1. So that would be kindly pointing out an actual flaw. Another actual flaw might be if somebody is kind of new to points and miles and say they use the Chase portal, even if it's at 1.5, to book a Hyatt Place, and they never bothered to see what the points total was, and they have a Sapphire Preferred, and it's like that hotel that was $125, you just booked it for 12,500 Hyatt points. But if you had transferred to Hyatt, you could have got the exact same room for 5,000 points. So objectively speaking, you're doing it wrong, unless there's some other reason. Like if it's one of the Chase stays where you earn status, which most aren't, but a few are, especially not a Hyatt Place. That would be an objective flaw. Now, an example of disagreeing might be, let's say you're going to Dayton, Ohio, for some reason, and there is a boutique hotel and a Hyatt Place right next door. And the ratings are pretty similar, and the cash rates are pretty similar. And somebody cashes out money from Wells Fargo, Chase, whatever, to stay at the boutique hotel. And you come along and say, bro, you're doing it wrong. There's a Hyatt Place right across the street. It's only 5,000 points per night. Why would you cash out 12,500 points? And they might say, I just like that boutique hotel better. I've had good experience there. The rooms are nicer. It's got a nice architectural style. I just plain like it more. That is a use case difference, because for that person, staying at that hotel trumped the point savings. So you can say, I agree to disagree, that's fine, but you can't call it a flaw. They're not doing it wrong. So I think a video and kind of knowing where that line is between respectfully pointing out an actual flaw versus just different use cases could be kind of a good idea. Let's see what people's have to say about that. Oh, I must have pushed a button because got a lot of comments all of a sudden. New Again says, only hotel brands I want to stay in all the time are Hyatt and Omni. Gotcha. I don't know hardly anything about Omni. Are they in the States much? Travel Earn Repeat says, love the channel. Thank you so much. Awesome. Glad to hear it. And YouTube Experiment says, no, I work as a clerk with USPS, but sometimes they send me up to 50 miles in any direction, though. Probably don't get a free hotel stay out of being 50 miles away. Bryjack says, I disagree. just generally, I disagree. Not anything in particular. John says, my way is the right way. You are wrong. I really dislike anyone saying that. QC Man says, no, we can't disagree. What you're saying is stupid, Doug. Exactly. Fleet Easily says, agree about the disagreeing respectfully. Like my style is primarily domestic economy redemptions for air travel over big cents per point international trips. And that's fine by me. Agree with you there. My favorite comment I ever saw was very early on in my points and miles journey. I wish I'd screenshotted it. I don't even remember where I read it. Maybe it was Reddit. Maybe it was some other blog. This guy says something like, I live in Tucson, Arizona, and I want to fly to Chicago to visit my grandparents over Thanksgiving. What's the best way to get there on points and miles? And somebody went into this long diatribe about, you shouldn't use your points to fly domestically from Tucson to Chicago. You can just buy that ticket with cash. Let me give you an example. You could fly to Southeast Asia for only 50,000 points in business class, and this is what the cash rate would be, and you'd be getting 28 cents per point, so do that instead. And the response was like one sentence, but I don't want to go to Asia. I want to go to Chicago. And that was it. Thought, best answer ever. Mike Newland says, when to not say something to your player 2 and not get in trouble for saying it. Ooh. I think I actually have done an idea before. In fact, I know I have, because I talked to Chad's Money Minutes about it in person once. doing just a player 2 video in general, but that could definitely be a sub point about that. I'll give you a tip that generally husband points are more valuable than chase points. So like my wife has a primary backup card and a triple backup card. The triple backup card is the US Bank Cash Plus, and she's used that on some general merchandise before and gotten 1% cash back. Just give a friendly reminder and move on. Don't make a big deal out of it. To fleet easily, John says there's nothing wrong with that. Do what gives you the most value. Newigan says part of dumb things in our community does topic. Maybe the card isn't for you is always communicated in such a pompous, faux, elite, yet super corny manner 90% of the time by Amex Platinum fanboys and girls. I can see that. I can relate to that. Mr. Roz relates to that. Well, maybe the card's not for you. Really means you're a stupid hick who travels to Clear Lake, Iowa to look at leaves. I'm exaggerating for the sake of proving a point. Don't come down on me too hard. Sleepy Rod says, it's your points. You can do what you want with them. Yuri G says, yes, I hear that from Amex Platinum owners. LN330 says, I will probably never redeem points for a first or business class flight. I'd rather save the points for something else or another trip, but to each their own. I do ask this question. You can answer if you want to, but you don't have to. How old are you and how comfortable are you flying more than 6 hours in economy? Sleepy Rod says, most people do the cent per point calculations wrong anyway, in my opinion. I feel like people use an inflated cash price to highlight a high cents per point. I actually mentioned that earlier. I don't remember if it was on a live stream or something else. So at Puerto Rico in only 2 weeks, I'm staying at a DoubleTree. Might change it, but for now I'm booked into the DoubleTree, and I use my free night certificate for one of the nights. The points price is exactly the same each of the 4 nights that I'm there. So in terms of saving me points, because I'm using points for the other 3 nights, it doesn't even matter which night I apply the free night certificate to. However, the cash rate for each of the nights is different. So like if I say I use the free night certificate for Friday night, I got $600 in value. But if I use it for Monday night, I only got $300 in value. So I do feel like there are people who will specifically game it to make it look as good as possible. Even though realistically it doesn't matter, you know, what am I saving? I get 1 night free. Probably, to be fair, I should either use the least expensive night or at a bare minimum average them out to say, hey, I had this many nights. It was an average of this much. One of them was free. Therefore, I saved this much money. You know, same with like, you know, when using points, we almost always book 2 one-ways rather than round trip. So then when calculating cents per point, are you using your total and comparing it to a round way, or using one way with points comparing it to one-way cash, which is probably going to be dramatically more than 50%. Good point, John says. QC Man says, I remember you're planning to make the Redstone your player 2's main card, and then they geofenced it the next week. That could be dumb things I've done. I've got my backup topic, if I hadn't done this one, was going to be my surrender Cobra moments in points and miles. And if you don't know what I mean by that, there's a meme of like, usually it's sports fans when something bad happens to their team going like this. And the idea is like, it kind of looks like a cobra because your arms are flared out like the hood of a snake. I thought it was like Cobra Commander at first. So it's like when something bad happens in a sporting event. One of the most famous ones is a Michigan fan at a football game where they were leading with like 10 seconds left and all they had to do was punt. And there was a bad snap on the punt. It got bobbled and the punter got hit and the ball flew up in the air and a Michigan State guy ran it in for a touchdown with no time left and they ended up winning at the last second. So they quickly panned the crowd and there's this guy going like that. So I thought about doing my surrender Cobra moments in points and miles where everything went wrong. And that could be one of them, is like, I was waiting to apply for the Redstone. And when I finally got around to it, it was like a week after they geofenced. It was like, no. LN says, Dad in my 40s living in the Midwest. Sound familiar? It does sound very familiar. Pull up a chair and let's talk about burning weeds in our rock garden. Yeah, I guess you're more comfortable with those economy seats than I am. Maybe you have the great British health better than I do. LN is asked, do you have a beard and wear plaid shirts? And says, haha, yes. The last year when my sons and I went to a Cyclones game, it was an early game, so everybody was wearing t-shirts and shorts. And my kids are teenagers now, but we were joking about a scenario where like a little boy gets lost and they're like, oh, he goes up to a worker and says, I got lost. I came with my dad and I can't find him. Like, all right, well, why don't you describe your dad and we'll try to help you. It's like, oh, he's in his 30s or 40s. He has a beard and he's wearing an Iowa State t-shirt. And like you pan the audience and it's like every third person in the audience meets that description. Guy in his 30s or 40s with a beard, wearing an Iowa State t-shirt and cargo shorts. As long as I don't get stuck in the middle seat, I'm good. Luke says another Midwest 40s dad checking in. I have a feeling if you're flying over 6 hours, though, Luke, you're doing it in a big up front seat. That's just my speculation. Am I right or what? Okay, hey, that's the end of the theme of the day. I hope you enjoyed it. There's 25 videos that I never made. And actually, I got less than halfway through my list. So there could be another 25 videos coming up in the future. We'll save that for another time. Let's transition into our community tab. Every Friday night, and I was a little late on the draw this time, I post something on my community page which says, excuse me, here's a picture, and you can do two things. One is you can try to guess where the picture was taken, and the other thing you can do is to ask me a question about whatever. It can be about the picture, about the topic, but it doesn't have to be. So here's the picture of the week. Here's some middle-aged guy with a beard standing next to a very strange-looking statue that says, home of the world's largest bullhead. And I've blanked out a few other things that might be too good of a clue. So you can guess where that picture was taken. Yes, that's right. Some people want to fly to Paris and see the Eiffel Tower. I want to go to the statue of the world's largest bullhead at some random lake in the Midwest. Let's read the comments now. Okay, Ron Byrne asks this question. Regarding my trip to Europe this past summer, did the lost luggage claim from your European vacation ever get resolved? Also, are you going to make a video about your return trip from Europe back home? Great question, Ron. Thank you. I'll answer those in reverse order. Yes, I will eventually make a video about my Europe trip and a breakdown, which will include the return and everything. He's asked about the lost luggage. We repositioned within Europe from Manchester in England down to Vienna, Austria with a layover in Amsterdam. And on that leg of our trip, KLM lost 2 of our 4 bags. We did get them back before we flew home. So not like lost, but a baggage delay situation. I filed a claim with KLM and with Chase, because it was on my wife's Aeroplan card, for luggage delay at the same time. The Aeroplan card has the same luggage protection that the CSP and CSR do. And interestingly, it says that you have to file the claim within 10 days of when the luggage is lost, which is annoying because you have to file the claim with the credit card company before you know whether or not KLM will reimburse you or the airline. In my case, ultimately, KLM did make good. It was about $160 worth of damages for things I had to buy, like clothing and deodorant and medicine that was in our luggage. So they did make good on it, but it was a long process and it was kind of customer unfriendly. I had to email them like 4 times and keep badgering them. At one point, they even said, we're not going to cover your dry cleaning because it's not a durable good. We only cover goods, not services. And I said, well, see, here's the thing. On Sundays in Vienna, Austria, every store is closed, so we didn't have the option of buying clothes. So instead, we paid to have it dry cleaned. And they eventually caved in and refunded the whole amount. So I was able to close out my Chase claim. So yes, that was resolved. I need to do a whole video about that too. The moral of the story is keep fighting for a benefit you're entitled to. I bet you like 75% of people just throw their hands up and say, screw it, it's only $165. Jacob Hess, thank you, Ron. I appreciate it. Jacob Hess asks this question. The Omaha airport is getting an escape lounge in 2027 when the new terminal opens. And just going from memory, please correct me if I'm wrong here. Escape lounges are designed by American Express, but you can get into them with just a regular Priority Pass card. Is that accurate? If Des Moines were to get an escape lounge, would you arrive early to go to the lounge before a flight? And would you retain a card for Priority Pass access that maybe you otherwise would have canceled? Thank you for the question. That's a good one. First of all, exciting to hear that Omaha is getting an escape lounge because that's one of the airports I could hypothetically fly out of. I'd have to drive about 2.5 hours to get there. But it would be an option. And the answer is yes, I would. If there was one in Des Moines, I would arrive early before a flight just to go to the lounge because I like to stock up on food and it's free food. I would retain a card for Priority Pass access. So I'll probably figure something out to make sure I always have Priority Pass of some kind. Luke does say here, not all of them are on a Priority Pass, but lots of them are. Yeah, okay. So if all I need was Priority Pass, I would retain that. If I had to have an Amex Platinum, boy, that would be tough. I'd have to really do the math and think that one over. But yes, if it was a Priority Pass escape lounge, I would retain a card just to make sure I could get in. Great question. Thank you, Jacob. Let me catch up on comments here. QC Man says, I'm old enough to always associate Michigan upsets with the Appalachian State upset when they were still a 1AA team, albeit a very good 1AA team. Yes, and I know they've moved up to 1A now, or Group of 5, whatever you call it, just Division 1. Football bowl series as opposed to championship series. But in my mind, Appalachian State is always that team that beat Michigan that one time. So I agree with you. It doesn't even seem like it was that long ago. What was it, like 2007? Somebody check my data there. Sleepy Rod says, I think at point 26, the credit card community is like any other community. People have teams, and they want their team to win and want to dunk on other teams. Their teams are the banks, which is interesting. We should have kind of an adversarial relationship with the bank in the sense of taking advantage of them. I can see why Amex has such great customer service and things like damage replacement that you might feel loyal to them. And that's in some ways a good thing, but in some ways it can play against you. So that's a discussion worth having. QCman says Maryland, ? And I'm assuming you're guessing where the giant fish statue is. Nope, not Maryland. Matt Clausen said kicked in. My CSR benefits kicked in. Good to know. Good for you, Matt. Already back from your Chase dining experience? LN says the best end of a football game ever. Go green. Oh, I take you're a Michigan State fan, or at least somewhat of a Michigan State fan. Is that the one where the announcer is like, his voice is cracking like he's going through puberty? It's like, they win on the last play of the game. Or is that the kick 6 Auburn one? I can't remember. YouTube Experiment says, okay, home, to answer your question on free hotel stay, it has to be over 50 miles, and I'd have to book a government rate hotel and get reimbursed. Also have to be approved prior to booking. Ugh, that's a lot of crappy strings to have to jump through. How many hotels offer government rates? Matt says, 2QC, man, I'm not doing Chase Dining until it's overhauled. It's a dumpster fire. StubHub gift card purchase incoming? Sleepy Rod asks. YouTube says, I'll have to check my CSR benefits, as will I. LN says it is the same game. On the last play of the game. My son really likes watching YouTube videos of weird things that happen in football. So like last second, unexpected endings, unusual penalties, funny referee calls, personal foul, number 63. He was giving him the business, that kind of stuff. We've got some other good ones, but I'll save those. Continuing on here with the community tab and seeing who has questions on stuff. Scott S. says, I've been thinking about Wyndham points a lot. I see a lot of sales to get them for around 0.7 to 0.8 cents. Is it worth earning 28,000 points in a year in gas and utilities, or just buying the points when they're on sale? Do you think they're like Hilton points in that regard? I'm finding I'd rather have the flexibility of city thank you points over only Wyndham for Vacasa, etc. Well, this is another situation where you have two sides. You got your left brain and your right brain. I don't remember which one's analytical. I think left is analytical. The analytical brain says, let's do the math. So let's go ahead and do that. You said you often see point sales around 0.7 or 0.8. I don't see a lot around 0.7, but I think I have seen 0.72. Let's just, for the sake of easy math, average that out and go with 0.75 cents per point. So let's just say that's it. So if you can buy into Wyndham points at 0.75, I'm going to take that times 8. Now, why am I taking it times 8? Well, because the Wyndham Earner business card earns 8 cents per point on gas. So if your alternative is to buy the points for 0.75, that means you would have to be using a card that gets you at least 6% cash back on gas to break even. I don't know of a whole lot of cards that earn 6% cash back on gas, short of some major strategy that you can only do on a limited time basis. Could it happen? Like you could have a Rakuten in-person offer on a Chase Freedom Flex while that's also the 5X rotating category. Yes, it could happen, but it's going to be pretty hard to come by. So even though you might think to yourself, well, I'll just earn something that gets cash back and then buy the points, because of that really high earning rate, 8X, it's hard to overcome. So that's one of the things that makes the Wyndham card worth doing. Now that's the analytical part of the brain. The creative part of the brain says it depends. How are you going to use them? Because you're right. Anytime you get higher earnings on a co-branded card, you're giving something up. And the thing you're giving up is flexibility. So if an awesome sale comes up, an awesome use case comes up on Hilton, those Wyndham points aren't going to do you any good. If an awesome use case comes up on British, those points aren't going to do you any good. Unless you can transfer to British, maybe you can. I don't know. But the conversion rate's so bad, it's probably not going to do you any good. So you're giving up a better earning rate to have flexibility if you go with cash back instead. So in my use case, unless Wyndham gets even more nerfed for cottages or Vacasa, sorry, I didn't mean to flip you off. I realized last week I was watching my own live stream, which I often do just to see how I'm doing. I went to clear goobers out of my eyes right while addressing someone's question, and I used my middle finger to do it. And it kind of looked like I was being mean to that person. So I didn't mean to do it. I apologize. I'm one of those middle-aged dads who's got in the habit of pushing buttons with my middle finger, and I probably need to get out of that habit. So do I think it's worth earning around 28 points per year in gas utilities? Yeah, I do. And I think that's better than buying Wyndham points most of the time, unless you need a top off. But I wouldn't do all of my spend on. So I'm not going to go to a gas station and buy prepaid Visa gift cards to get nothing but Wyndham points from now on. But it's still a big enough part of what I want to do for cottages and Vacasas that it's worth doing for me. I really like corn. But it is a great question. It's a great thought experiment, Scott. There is no right or wrong answer. It's totally a use case thing. Looking up the next question here. Actually, I'll catch up over here on the side comments. We already asked that. Same game. YouTube Experiment explains all chains have a government rate. Okay. QC man, am I worried about those Campbell to Penn State rumors? Not really, because why would Penn State fire James Franklin and then hire Matt Campbell? I love Matt Campbell. He's a great coach, but he just lost the last 2 games. I think Penn State has an unreasonably high standard, and I think anything short of, the second coming of Bear Bryant isn't going to be good enough for them. I'm a little worried in the sense of if they got desperate enough. I feel like if you're wondering, Matt Campbell's the head coach of Iowa State University's football team, my favorite team. I do think if he's ever going to leave, it's going to be for something like Ohio State, Notre Dame, Michigan, maybe Michigan State, Penn State, kind of in that second tier. He's a Midwest guy. He grew up in Ohio, so Ohio and surrounding states. He's kind of got a Big Ten feel about him, the way he does things. So I don't have a first-tier concern, but I do have a second-tier concern if Penn State has happened to go to their 4th, 5th, 6th choice. Now, Iowa State has so many injuries. I think they're going to have a bad finish to this season. They won their first 5 games and then dropped the last 2. They lost their 2 starting cornerbacks. So he's probably not going to have a great record the rest of this year. YouTube says, I guess I'll allow TV Plus or whatever it's called later tonight. Apple TV. I knew what you meant. QCMA says, also, if Apple Music, if you don't already have a music streamer, that's a good point. QCMA says, I pay for YouTube Premium, which has YouTube Music. And Don Kim says Jeff Fisher. I don't even know who that is. I'm sorry. I'm assuming that's somebody vying to be the next coach of Penn State. Battleground Balloons made it. Good to have you here. Catch 631 also asked this question. If the Des Moines Airport ever got a lounge, what network would you want to be a part of? Such a credit card, lounge pass, party pass, or a specific airline? Capital One. That's the one I would want to be a part of because it would just fit me so well with the Venture X, holding on to that. Even with the, $125 for unlimited visits, it would just fit so perfectly. I can hand my boys a Venture X. They just spend everything on this and they'll figure it out. So definitely Capital One. Actually, when I flew out of Des Moines this summer for our European vacation, we had a severe delay, like a 4-hour delay. And I just went around taking footage and photographs of different things and plan on putting together a funny video sometime trying to recruit a lounge to come to Des Moines. So maybe that'll inspire me to do it. Let's get to the guessing of the picture. 2 people got it right, but the first one to get it right was Luke D. Johnson, who said, this is Crystal Lake, Iowa, home to the world's largest bullhead statue. Absolutely. And I'll type this in here just so we can find it. Crystal Lake, Iowa. Share this tab, share my screen. Yep, you can even see right. It's kind of hard to see, but right there you can see it says world's largest bullhead. There it is. I think he has a name. I don't remember what it is. Fine attraction in town. Ended up meeting and talking to the gentleman who restored it. It looks great and deserves a stop to check it out. I fish here a lot. It's easy to catch bullhead, but I'm always fishing for largemouth bass. So if you're wondering where it is, I'll zoom out here. We're in the northern part of Iowa, just about 20 miles to the west of Interstate 35, about 15 miles south of the Minnesota border. So on my trip, here's Des Moines, here's Minneapolis. I was kind of here, like between Mankato and Fort Dodge. This is kind of the area I was on my foliage trip recently. So that is correct. And here is the unredacted or the non-redacted photo with all the signage in place and everything. You can see right here, home of the world's largest bullhead, Crystal Lake, Iowa. Now, I'll be honest with you folks, I kind of regret going to this location because it was on Saturday. It was like 6 o'clock in the evening. It was just before sundown. And there's a state park just kind of off to the right, to the east side of this same lake. This is on the south edge of the lake in town. And I thought there'd be a lot of nice foliage. There wasn't. There was hardly any foliage in this area. It was super cold. It was super windy. I basically set up my tripod with the little Bluetooth touch button thing, took a few pictures, sat on the pier for like 2 minutes and then left. And I drove like 30 miles out of my way to go see it. So that was sort of a misadventure, but hey, at least I got a picture out of it. In addition to Luke Johnson, Catch 631 said this is State Street in Crystal Lake, Iowa. Is that the name of the street? Let's find out. State Avenue. Yes, it is. Good job. So Luke Johnson, I give you 1,000 Dugroz points for being the first to guess it correctly. And Catch 631, I give you 250 points as your runner-up consolation prize. I think that's everything. Let me just do a real quick refresh here to see if I have any new comments. I do not. All right. So I'm going to be ending the video real soon. So if you want to drop a super chat, super sticker, donate a membership, or just say something, now is your last chance to do that. Fair warning. I'll catch up on comments, then we'll review who donated what. QC Man says, isn't Jeff Fisher a zillion years old? He was the coach of the Houston Oilers and that team that hasn't existed for 30 years. Excuse me. That team hasn't existed for 30 years is what I meant to say. YouTube experiment. So that's what I was known for. I thought it was a field of dreams, cornfields. Corn more than fishing, but we are known for fishing. It is a good fishing state. Background Blue says, looks amazing. That statue looks like if Bass Pro Shop made torpedoes, though. That's a good point. YouTube experiment. People will come, Ray. People will come. Is that the name of the guy who made it? On the picture, it actually has the name of the person who made it and the person who restored it, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to see it or not. I can't read it. It's too small. Thanks, Ray, or whoever. QC Man says, it looks like it's really cold, but it seems like a really beautiful scene. It was. It was just the coldness outweighed the beauty. The following evening, when I was sitting on the dock of the bay, Watching the tide roll away. Okay, I wasn't sitting on the dock of the bay. I was sitting on a rock at Big Island State Park in Minnesota. The temperature was like 20 degrees higher and much nicer, much less wind. So that was the nice sitting outside spot. Northern Iowa was actually known for being a very windy place. YouTube Experiment did a quote from Field of Dreams. Oh, that's what this is. People will come, Ray. People will come. Okay, yeah, I remember that now. Is this heaven? No, it's Iowa. All right, reviewing the donors here. Tom Graber got the ball rolling with 1 Dugroz Reports membership. John also donated a Dugroz Reports membership. Eternal Vortex donated $1.99. Zach gifted a membership. Ayama Karim donated $2. LN donated $1.49. Gentleman Explorer donated $1.49. TH donated $2. Kusu Man donated a membership. And Mike Newland donated 20 memberships. And then also Mike Newland dropped $60 in the tip jar. So thank you, everyone, for your support. I'll pause here briefly in case you have a last second comment or gift. New Again says 2 of the greatest NFL ref moments, giving him the business foul and the use of an index card to measure if it's a first down. But if I remember correctly, the 3x5 card one, they told him later, hey, don't do that ever again. So they don't do it anymore. I thought it was good. As a former high school official, I can tell you if it was really close, I would get like a perfect 90-degree perpendicular squat and stare for a couple seconds. Do you ever feel like some of them are just sort of like, oh, yeah, that's first down. And it's like by a millimeter, like they're way too cavalier about it. Like, go ahead and look that thing over, guys. New Again says, I think the index card is the current CBS referee, Gene Sterator. Might be. I can think of what he looks like, but I don't know his name. All right, that's it. We are wrapping up I didn't quite make noon Central Time, but I came really close. Thank you again for everyone who supported the channel. I really appreciate it. And on your way out the door, do me a fave. Click the thumbs up button. And as always, may your spending be frugal and may your points be plenteous. Thanks.